What's up, guys? Welcome to Fresh Fit Podcast, man. We are here with Ryan Dawson. We're out of YouTube jail. Let's get into it.
Part 2. Let's go.
What's up, guys? We are back. Welcome to the Fresh Fit Podcast, man. Guys,
long hiatus.
Yeah, very long hiatus. But I'll make some quick announcements. Number one, rumble.com/fresh-and-fit, guys. That's first and foremost, because pretty much we got a strike, so we're out in YouTube jail for a week.
I wonder how, though.
Huh?
I wonder how we got a strike.
Yeah, bro. Basically, they took our video down. We're making fun of Abba and Preach, right? Their fans mass reported our video. That's a fact. I got the information from our YouTube person. So, bro, it is what it is, man. Like, they could, dish it out, but they can't take it clearly.
Facts.
So, yeah, but they mass reported that video, guys. They got taken down for bullying and harassment. Here we are, later. So, dudes could make 20+ videos, but then as soon as we say some shit back, make one video, it's like, oh my God, and they go fucking crazy, and their fans come in and fucking mass report our video. So, it is what it is, man. But yeah, go check us out over there on rumble.com/freshfit, where they're not snowflakes, okay, guys? So if we do get canceled, you'll know exactly where to find us.
On Rumble.
And after today's podcast, we might get canceled again. Check us out on freshfit.locals.com as well, guys. And then also
more streams on there as well during the week. Streams.
The website, guys, for the clothes is for the merch. It's down, but we're gonna try to connect it today. Right after this show, I'm gonna get with Fresh. We're gonna call the hotline and see what we could do. Also, check out our Clips channel, guys, Fresh Fit Clips. We're back to posting on there as well. And on our Clips channel, you guys are wondering, hey, well, if you had the main channel down, why don't you guys post on the Clips channel? The reason why, guys, is because you can't post on any of your channels when one has a strike. You don't want to get hit with a circumvention and, get another one. So, and then, Fresh, you want to talk about your vlog?
Guys, for more behind the scenes, check out the vlog channel. Sorry, I'm focused on too many things right here. But we're gonna do more live streams as well as vlogs. We did one before with my speech at Africa Summit and as well the car show. But more importantly, we're gonna do more calls with the CEO Network. So go check it out.
Wait, Fresh, you spoke?
Yeah, I spoke on a live event. It was crazy, man. I did the boys well, man. I did a pretty good job. So there you go.
And then, guys, check me out on Fed Reacts. I just dropped an episode yesterday on the Philly mob. I'll probably take a poll. I'll either cover the Warren W. Melly case or the Trump indictment for you guys this Sunday. I'll do a poll on Fed Reacts to see which one you guys want. But I'll cover both, but we'll see which one I do first. And then also go get my book, Why Women Deserve Less. And other than that, man, I think we're pretty much good.
Yeah. Welcome back.
Yeah. Yo, Ryan, welcome back to the show, man. We are happy to have you. Welcome.
You guys, you got banned for a week on YouTube?
Yeah, man. Got banned for
Noobs.
a week.
It was like, the time chamber.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know what to do, bro. I was like, damn, what do we do? We can't really do much.
I don't know about you, but a week from the girls, god damn, I was happy.
Yeah.
Of course you are, bro.
But yeah, no, man. It was weird, but it is what it is, man.
Yeah.
We can make fun of people on YouTube, I guess, that talk shit about you.
We just spent time planning for our next venture, bro, and what we're doing next. So it's all good.
But Ryan, we know who you are. The people might not know who you are because they've canceled you into an oblivion, goddammit, because obviously the truth hurts and people don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my noobs joke. Like, ooh, you lost YouTube for a whole week.
Yeah.
I've been banned on everything, everything. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, PayPal, Patreon, Live League, Daily Motion, all that stuff. I did get a Twitter back after Elon, though, so that's pretty cool.
Nice.
So I have been a thorn in the government side for a long time. Today's topic is September 11th, and we're going to show clips from a movie I made, but which is about 11 years old or something. It was called Empire Unmasked. Prior to that, I had a different one called War by Deception, and before that, I had an article which 500,000 people read called Iraq 9/11 PNAC, All Roads Lead to, the place we're not allowed to talk about on YouTube.
Start state if you guys know what we're talking about.
And so I have been making films. My most recent one is on the theft of nuclear weapons, which we've charted out. Also by the place we're not allowed to mention. And yeah, you got like, I can't really tell you what I do because this is YouTube, and that's, you know, basically I muckrake and do journalism and films and articles on the things that no one's allowed to talk about.
Yeah.
And not in a kook way, like in a real way, because 99% of the stuff on 9/11 is just garbage.
Yeah.
I think being canceled on every platform shows how much value, truth you bring, because if you weren't a threat,
they wouldn't cancel you
at all.
You know,
right? People who've been blanket banned, like the Tates, you know, they're scared of their reach. They're also scared of their message.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. So yeah, and we're going to talk about 9/11 in detail, guys. There were multiple conspirators involved in it. There's obviously a portion that no one wants to talk about, aka them boys, which we're going to cover today, which we're going to go to Rumble. But what we're going to do first, guys, so I'll read the chats real fast. Then we're going to go ahead and do a recap on what we covered last time, because it has been a few weeks. It's been, you know, Ryan has a family, so he had some stuff that he had to take care of.
Yeah.
We weren't around for a week because obviously we're in YouTube jail. So I know that it's been a while in between shows, but it's okay. Don't worry about it. We're going to go ahead and recap the first show here so that you kind of know what's going on here. But I'll read these chats real fast. We got Mike Hawk goes, WFNF for revealing the truth, even at the risk of them boys coming after their pennies. Yeah, bro, you know what time it is. Masturbation goes, how much y'all want to bet Chris is going to miss the show today because he's hungover and sleeping in on his bench? Hennessy's still in hand. Yeah, Chris is here, surprisingly. BB goes, why not report Abba and Ape for using your content? Nah, man, we're not going to do that, bro. But yeah, their fans 100% mass reported us, dude. I got it straight from YouTube, so it is what it is. 37-year-old married mother here. Love the show. We're bringing up the next generation of kings in our house. P.S. Chris is a bum. At the end of the day, we're going to keep giving y'all value, bro, because that's what it's really about. Like me, they're not even on our level, bro. I'm going to keep it all the way 1,000. We're over here talking about 9/11 and using declassified documents to tell you guys about one of the worst terrorist attacks in U.S. history. Meanwhile, these guys are fucking reacting to TikToks.
Making jokes.
Fucking losers.
Donkeys.
Yeah, facts. At the gym right now, about to bench 215. Let's go. Chris the Bum and F, Anus, and Reach. Yeah, man, it is what it is, guys. Big bossing shout outs to Fresh, Myron, Big Mo, and Chris. You guys are the truth. Appreciate you all. Thank you very much.
To you, Cody.
John goes, just a tip for the content and welcome back. Ignore the prostate face and the window liquor. Way too valuable to us. Yeah, I know, guys. I know.
Just a tip.
B, welcome back. Always undefeated. We got y'all. Derek the Trader, if laziness was an Olympic sport, Chris would come in fourth so he wouldn't have to walk up to the podium. Yo, man. Welcome back, y'all. Let's get it, Dr. Evil. And then we got Jeezy Dubs goes, y'all thoughts on conspiracies, the celebs / people that missed or didn't get on those planes. Do you guys believe some of them? We'll talk about that. Don't worry. Them boys Chaching goes, Myron, just finished your book. We're gonna need a part 2. Why women deserve even less. Welcome back. Appreciate that. Lunchbox $2. Thank you. Side Jack goes, them boys, what you gonna do when they come for you? Okay, I got you.
Not much.
Chris is not here. W Chris. Kendall Lawson goes, guys, work in progress. Stay up, family. Appreciate that. Derek the Trader says, Chris is so lazy, he has remote control for his remote control. Them boys, Dawson, we're on your ass. Yeah, that I get what he meant there. Derek the Trader, Chris is so lazy, if there was a working, he'd rather sleep on the floor. No films, W stream as usual.
Who is that?
Yo, you guys roasted Chris. And then L Window Liquors from Tony Zappian. And then the last one here, Green Weenie 96 goes, first super chat, your voice changed my life. Like the fucking video. We back, boys. And then, all right, these last two came in, and then we're going to get into it, guys. Hey, Ryan, just curious, how far into your career of research did you realize you would have to leave the U.S.? Like, at what point did you decide, all right, I got to go? It's a good question, actually.
2005.
2005? Okay. Garrett Palmer, love the content. Cool. And then Andrew Graff goes, Ryan, thank you for exposing the truth. I will spread your message and channel. Also, any thoughts on Biden's bribery?
I have a lot of thoughts about that. I actually made a film called The Biden Crime Syndicate that gets over his bribery, his brothers, his son, and so on. It's
on Rumble.
It's a mouthful. Yeah, it's on Rumble. It's free.
Yeah. Go check it out, guys. On
Corn
Rumble.
Pop's Revenge is, you can search for it with that too. But I made that before the presidential debates. All the stuff about the laptop and all that is in that film. And like 2 years later, the mass media goes, oh, it turns out this is real after all. Of course they're bribed. And that And that, you know what? I would tell you who all bribed him and from where, but we're on YouTube.
So guys, from this point forward, we're going to take 20 and up because I want to make sure that we can get through the show because we got a lot to cover here. This is going to be a longer broadcast. As you guys can see, we started the show earlier than usual.
6 p.m.
because of so. So I guess we could start here with an overview. As you guys know, right, and everyone, unless you lived under a rock, September 11th happened, and it was one of the worst terrorist attacks in U.S. history. But no one really covers
the truth,
the other
it.
side about it, right? The official narrative is that we were attacked by hijackers, Al Qaeda, with 19 hijackers led by Mohammed Atta, where they
hate us for our freedoms.
Yes, exactly.
A surprise attack.
Yeah, a surprise attack.
Yeah, there you go. Fresh.
I mean, you want to give
we had no idea it was coming at all.
Idea.
Yeah,
Ryan, you want to give them an overview of the official story before we get into our version?
The recap.
Yeah, the official story is pretty simple. There's a terrorist group called Al Qaeda run by Osama bin Laden and Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and they had a plot to hijack commercial airliners, so they'd already be in the U.S. and ram them into buildings, and they hit the financial center and the military center, the Pentagon and the World Trade Centers. And they did it all by themselves without any sort of covert state support from anybody. They just did it because they're crazy Muslims that hate our freedom and wanted 72 virgins. And later, somehow, there was a follow-up attack, a biological attack of anthrax, which was also blamed on Al Qaeda, although they changed that story later after they had connected it to Iraq and invaded that country over nothing. Then they found out, oops, there weren't any WMDs, and oh yeah, they didn't send the anthrax. Oh well. And never were interested in, well, if they didn't do it, then who did? Blamed a scientist named Bruce Ivins. He was suicided before his trial, and that was the end of that. So official story is Al Qaeda attacked the United States.
Pull that up, Chris.
All by itself because they hate us for our freedoms.
This is KSM, guys, just so we could put names to faces here. Faces to names. This is Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, a.k.a. KSM. This was the guy who was the alleged mastermind of the 9/11 attacks. He worked hand in hand with Osama bin Laden, and this guy is the uncle, right, of Ramzi Youssef, which go ahead and you guys obviously know who bin Laden is. And this guy, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, is still alive. He's in Guantanamo Bay right now, actually, probably getting waterboarded. Go ahead, and there's bin Laden, and then can you type in Ramzi Youssef?
They shot him in the groin. Yeah, Ramzi Youssef was the Mohammed Atta of the 1990s who attacked the World Trade Center in 1993 with a Ryder truck bomb.
Yes, and we're gonna, for you guys to fully understand 9/11, you're also gonna have to understand the World Trade Center bombing from 1993. So yeah, let's go ahead and pull up that World Trade Center bombing thing, Chris. Yep. The first tab. So here it is, guys. World Trade Center bombing in 1993. This is from the official FBI website. As you guys can see here, there's some photographs of the basement that was bombed. And you want to talk about this real quick, Ryan? Give them a summary of what this was.
Yeah, I mean, we're recapping. We covered this the last show we did, but essentially, at first, the FBI had an informant inside the Muslim Brotherhood who acted all by itself. Who was they wanted him to go up the chain. They were after this guy they call the Blind Sheikh, and he got skittish and said, "I'm not wearing a wire around these people." And so they pulled him off, which was stupid because he was the only eyes they had on where the warehouse was or who was cooking the bomb. And he had told the FBI, "Hey, they're planning to something big with a truck bomb, and you need to swoop in and arrest these people." Yeah. Well, when they pulled him off the case, they were blind, and Ramzi Youssef replaced him and bombed the World Trade Center. Fortunately, the truck was parked in the wrong spot, so it didn't do the damage they had planned. The idea was to hit the edge so that one tower would topple into the other and knock them both down. But the Ryder truck was parked a bit too far away. It did kill people who were under it and injured many people, but it didn't take down the towers. And Ramzi Youssef fled the country and wouldn't be arrested for a while. And some of the other just hapless dupes, they were arrested. But the plans for the whole thing, for the whole cell actually, had been sitting in the FBI offices in plain Arabic, not even in code or anything, for over a year from the Mir Khan shooting. So just gross incompetence or they didn't care. You would be amazed at how few translators the FBI has for Arabic and Turkish and Hebrew and so on. They really outsource that to foreign states because, I mean, think about it. When you went to school and when you went to college, how many people who weren't Arab spoke Arabic? Not many.
Yeah.
You know, and especially not in the 90s. They just didn't have enough agents.
Yeah, they pushed. I mean, I know this also from experience. Like after 9/11, they pushed to get more Arabic linguists and Arab speaking agents like significantly. So they started pushing diversity hires. So yeah.
Ryan, real quick, do you think after these couple like attacks, there are going to be more attacks as well?
Well, they used 9/11 to invade Iraq and Afghanistan. So sort of the purpose from the government's point of view was replacing the Cold War with a new justification to spend trillions on the budget for imperial escapades. And it's not something you can stop. Terrorism is a tactic, and it's the result of our own foreign policy. Nobody just wakes up in the morning and says, hey, I'm going to go plant a truck bomb in a building out, just because I'm nuts or something. These guys issued their grievances, and it wasn't because of Islam. They were all political reasons that they gave: the oppression of Palestinians, the starvation of Iraqis, the bombing of Beirut. They're all naming factual things that the U.S. and Israel did to other states as their motivation. Now, obviously, they're still wrong. You can't just go murder a bunch of civilians in New York just because the U.S. did it to you. Two wrongs don't make a right, but out of their own mouth and their own will and testament, they're citing all political reasons, not religious reasons, for their attacks. And so there will be more.
And for the audience out there, a big reason why bin Laden hates us, guys, which I don't see people report on a lot, is that basically when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait in the 90s, what ended up happening was obviously that put the royal family of Saudi Arabia in a weird spot. And bin Laden had just beat the Soviets and out there in Afghanistan with the help of the CIA, by the way, and he had his freedom fighters, and he wanted to go back to Saudi Arabia to help fight off Saddam and his people alongside the royal family, because a lot of people don't know bin Laden is actually extremely wealthy. He comes from the second richest family in Saudi Arabia after the royal family, and Saudi Arabia told him, no, we don't need your help. The United States is going to help us. And that pissed him off because he's looking at it like, yo, why do we have
infidels
in his eyes? Yeah. Why do we have infidels fighting in our holy lands to defend us? That's haram. This shouldn't be going that way. So he started to criticize the Saudi government. They ostracized him. They stripped him of his Saudi citizenship, and he was pretty much exiled to Sudan. So that's a big reason why he hates the United States, which I don't see many people talk about that. And then
one thing to add to that, when you're talking about the conflicts with the Mujahideen and the Russians, Al-Qaeda also had a very tight relationship with Pakistan's ISI, not just the CIA. And this relationship doesn't fade after that war is over. Mm-hmm. You'll find out later that lieutenant generals and things were actually wiring money to 9/11 hijackers. And it just is beyond me why this wasn't followed up on.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Damn.
Mahmoud Ahmed gave $100,000 from Omar Sheikh to Mohammed Atta. And that was widely reported in The Guardian and papers in India. And the story came and went. They're like, okay, next.
All right. Let's go ahead. And for those that are wondering, ISI is, I think, Pakistan's version of the CIA, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
Yeah, it's their intelligence agency. All right. So we're going to go ahead and play for you guys a clip, because if we're going to break 9/11 down into, who was involved, because a lot of people, can you talk about this real quick, Ryan? Because I know I see people already in the chat saying Building 7, controlled demolition, the building went down like this. Guys, we're not really too concerned with.
Yeah. Free fall speed. No building ever fell from fire. Blah, blah, blah. Larry Silverstein. We've heard all this a million times. I'm not going to focus on the physics of the building because everybody has talked about that already. Okay. Obviously. Yeah. Look at it. It just goes kadoom. We get it. There were truck bombs in the building and they found them. This isn't a mystery.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of
people
act
like it's a mystery because they act like they don't have that information, and they're sitting there looking through thermite or paint or all this stuff. And it's silly. I mean, a foreign intelligence agency was caught celebrating the attacks, and there were vans full of bombs that were discovered on that day and reported on the news. And, you know, it's charlatans like Alex Jones and stuff. They don't talk about any of that. They only endlessly talk about, well, the Pulitzer an industry term and Larry Silverstein's and blah, blah, blah. It's getting you to bark up the wrong tree. And I always give this analogy: if someone burned your house down, do you sit there and scratch your head and go, gee, I wonder if they use kerosene or gasoline? Or do you want to know who burned your house down?
Yeah.
Right.
And
You've got a truck squealing out of your driveway full of guys. Like, well, let's ignore that and sift through the debris and see what kind of accelerant they use to burn it down. Stupid.
yeah, if you look a lot of people that cover 9/11 on, that don't believe the official story. And this is Larry Silverstein, by the way, guys. He bought the World Trade Center, like a month or so before, a month and a half before the attacks. And a lot of conspiracy theorists, like, say, oh yeah, this guy was behind it. He took out like a terrorism policy right before, blah, 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 which, or they're more concerned with
why wouldn't you get terrorism insurance on buildings that have been attacked in 1993 by terrorists?
That's true, because
right. Like that's such a dumb argument. And they're like, well, he tried to collect insurance twice. You're like, yeah, he tried and he didn't get it.
Good, Chris. So yeah, guys, so we're going to focus more on who was behind the attacks versus how the buildings went down, which a lot of people spend time talking about Building 7. They spend time talking about how fast the buildings came down. Oh, was there controlled demolitions, blah, blah, blah. Cool, whatever.
Well, we're going to tell you who had access into the towers and exactly what they did.
Exactly.
I don't have to guess at this stuff. People got arrested and no one seems to know.
All right. So let's go into, guys, there's 3 people involved, all right? We're going to, basically it was not people, but 3 entities.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Saudi Arabia, the United States, and then them boys. Obviously, once we go into them boys, we're going to have to go on Rumble. But let's go ahead and start the recap with the Saudi Arabian dry run. Before I pull this up, can you explain to the people this dry run and what it was back in 99?
This is 2 years before 9/11, 1999, and it was a flight that was going to DC. And when it was over Ohio, a couple guys tried to get into the cockpit, but they were prevented from doing so, and they grounded the plane. And it was found out later that the man that was driving their rental car was a Arizona Al-Qaeda recruiter. And so that all unravels from there. But the Inspector General and the FBI, they just didn't care. And the men, actually, their defense was, we're being racially profiled. They were not. You were trying to get into the cockpit of a plane. They had the excuse that, oh, I just thought it was the bathroom, but they did it many times. And they were told where the bathroom was. And that's not what they were doing. They're trying to, it was sort of a test run to see how much muscle you'd need to get into the cockpit, is what I think. Their tickets were paid for by the Saudi state. So there was something fishy there, because it's too many coincidences that you have somebody trying to get into the cockpit of a plane and you happen to be buddies with an Al-Qaeda recruiter who's driving your car. And yeah, so it's just a little bit of extra that was not picked up again. After 9/11 happened, they didn't talk about prior incidents. They didn't talk about 99 or 1993. They kept talking about Pearl Harbor.
Okay. So let's go ahead and roll the clip, guys. This went down 2 years prior to 9/11. Some Saudi Arabian nationals tried to hijack the plane. So go ahead and roll the clip.
Back in 1999, 2 men from Saudi Arabia, we'll call them Mak and Hash for simplicity, forced a plane bound for Washington to ground itself in Ohio, where the men were arrested. Both men had trained at Al-Qaeda camps in Afghanistan. Both were in contact with Al-Qaeda operatives, as well as the Saudi government, and both had their plane tickets paid for by the Saudi government. They tried multiple times to enter the cockpit, and their excuse to the FBI was, "We thought it was the bathroom." Stupid. Even though they had asked their stewardess where the bathroom was, and she directed them to the back of the plane, they go to the front of they knew it was the cockpit. But that was a good enough excuse because the FBI let them go.
Bruh.
Later, another Al-Qaeda suspect under investigation was discovered driving Mak's car. Why did he have his car? Perhaps because this Arizona Al-Qaeda recruiter is who drove them to the airport the day they got on the flight, where they ended up getting arrested for trying to enter the cockpit. Robert Mueller of the FBI, even after learning all about that and the Al-Qaeda training camps and contact with operational level operatives, was not interested in investigating or even interviewing these men. All they did was a dry one of 9/11. Who'd want to talk to them about that?
Yeah, and this was covered by the New York Post and Press TV, but only in 2017.
Yeah, so no one talked about this until way later.
Years
18 years later, they talk about it, right?
Yeah. And that's kind of, and you guys are going to notice there's a trend when we cover this 9/11 stuff. Ryan ends up predicting something or finding something out. It doesn't get declassified until a decade plus later.
Yeah.
Well, I was interviewed by Press TV, and then I think the Post copied them.
Okay. So we covered the 1999 dry run. Then after that, I think we got what are we going to cover after that one? Sorry.
Mueller wasn't the director yet, but by the time the trial was going through, he was.
So
just so you know.
We got another clip here for you guys where we're going to talk about the money movement between the Saudi Arabian government to the hijackers.
Yeah.
Yes, I said that right.
This is state-sponsored terrorism, flat out. And this story has just recently been sort of re-reported by RT and then a guy from the Gray Zone who got some stuff wrong, but at least he tried. But none of this is new. This is old news. This has been out in films. It's been in my film, obviously. We've been talking about this ad nauseum, and it's just now getting attention. And I think the timing tells you something, because just as Saudi Arabia's warming up to Iran and no longer at war with Yemen, they suddenly start coming out with relationships between Saudi Arabia and 9/11 hijackers. It's almost an unveiled threat. Hey, knock it off or else.
Yep. Because some of this stuff got declassified within the last year, guys. So and this film came out a decade plus ago. So all right, let's roll the clip, guys.
Well, I can tell you where I got the info. I didn't have to wait for them to declassify, but we'll roll the clip and then I'll explain.
Okay, so this is going to talk about the money movement, guys, between hijackers and the Saudi government. Yes, we said the money movement between the hijackers and the Saudi government. Guys, keep in mind that I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, 16 of the hijackers were Saudi Arabians. Ryan,
15 15 had Saudi Arabian passports.
Okay, gotcha. All right, let's roll it.
Truth has been running around in circles. 9/11 truth has been running around in circles. The investigative path has centered on the what and not the who. The inquiry was derailed away from the logistics and financing, post-attack anthrax and invasions, which cover means and motive, over to hair-splitting rants about physics, mainly Building 7. This, hey, just asking questions group quickly devolved into discrediting nonsense ranging from pods and missiles to futuristic energy weapons and miniature nukes in the buildings, living hijackers, and even holograms.
Pause real quick.
Unwilling to be
guys, there's a bunch of stupid theories out there of how 9/11 happened. Obviously, these are all asinine, but we're, like I said before, we're going to cover the who, which was behind, because all these stupid ass theories don't cover the people that are really behind it. Let's keep running.
They want to confuse you. That's why
they want to confuse you.
Yep,
exactly.
Pretty much
with all the holograms and all this other crazy ass stories.
I had a picture of Spike Bowman on there too, which was very hard to find. And that clip you played before, where I showed the two hijackers, that was not easy to find photos of these guys.
No,
but I got them.
Yep.
Associated with the paranoids and kooks. Many more rational people keep their view about 9/11 private. There is also something off-putting about the way 9/11 noobs preach their spoon-fed talking points with the same zeal as a religious cult, CrossFit vegan Bitcoin buyers' pushiness and dogmatism. There's no reason to run in circles. There's a lot of evidence showing a cover-up. There's a lot of evidence showing the CIA's counterintelligence, the same people who covertly supported ISIS and Al-Qaeda in Syria and Libya, who with other foreign states backed Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and lied about Iraq, were protecting Al-Qaeda on 9/11. A year ago, the U.S. Senate finally released a formally redacted 28-page section of the Senate's investigation into 9/11, called the JIS Report. The content covers state-sponsored financial support for 9/11 hijackers. This information was already known and explained in my film, The Empire Unmasked. Saudi Arabian state officials financed 9/11 hijackers through intermediaries. This is Prince Bandar bin Sultan,
Pay attention,
more
guys.
widely known by his nickname, Bandar Bush, given to him because of his close ties with the Bush family. He was the Saudi ambassador to the U.S. at the time of 9/11. His wife gave money to the wife of Osama Basnan, a man who idolized Osama bin Laden. Basnan's wife gave money to the wife of Omar Bayoumi, who gave financial support to and briefly lived with two 9/11 hijackers, Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Midhar, who were both on Flight 77, who had both fought in Bosnia and who had both fought in Chechnya before, and both of whom went to an al-Qaeda summit meeting in Malaysia, and both of whom had lived with briefly Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the al-Qaeda mastermind of 9/11.
We showed you guys earlier who that guy
Prince
was.
Bandar eventually became the director of general intelligence for Saudi Arabia, like Saudi Arabia's CIA. This was a position held for a long time by his wife's brother, Prince Turki bin Faisal Assad. Prince Turki, with his uncle, set up institutions to help the CIA launder money to proxy forces, including al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden. Pakistan's ISI also joined the US, CIA, and the Saudis in these efforts. There's a lot of background and detail on that. I implore you to watch The Empire Unmasked for a full understanding. A bin Laden enthusiast, Bandar's wife paid the wife of Osama Basnan, who paid the wife of Omar Bayoumi, who paid the hijackers. Basnan was introduced to the 9/11 hijackers by Omar Bayoumi. Basnan moved in and lived across the street from the hijackers. His wife used the CIA's longtime favorite Riggs Bank to pay the wife of Omar Bayoumi. Omar met with the hijackers in LA and got them an apartment. He signed their lease and lived with them for the first month. Omar was also a ghost employee for Erkan, a Saudi front, which paid him leading up to 9/11. His contacts also assisted the hijackers. The CIA already knew al-Hazmi and al-Midhar were bad news, yet they traveled to the U.S. using their real names, and the CIA didn't inform the FBI.
Wow.
Yep.
The Senate investigation on this matter relied heavily, if not exclusively, on FBI field office reports from different regions, with their focus primarily being on the two West Coast hijackers. But what about the other 17 hijackers? And what about the other full field investigation reports on 9/11, particularly from New York, New Jersey, and Florida, where 15 of them lived? The reason I knew and preemptively released the information the Senate had redacted and kept from the public for 15 years is because I used FOIAs to read the same primary sources that they did.
Pause real quick.
There's much.
Yeah. If you go and look at those full field investigations, it's from 2002.
The other thing too, I want to explain to the audience real quick, because you said the reason why you know this is because of FOIAs. Guys, FOIA stands for Freedom of Information Act. Basically, what you can do is, as a private citizen, is you can request documents from the government that pertain to certain situations. And you know, if you're patient enough, diligent enough, you'll get these documents. It's a lot of work, so shout out to Ryan for getting these documents and having doing the FOIAs to get these documents, which is why he's, you know, so knowledgeable about this. But he had this information way before it was brought up to the public. You know, I mean, hell, this documentary came out in 2011, guys. So, but some of this stuff is just starting to get declassified now, which you already knew about. So that's how he was able to get a lot of this information. Because I know a lot of you guys in the chat like, whoa, how does he know all this? Going through FOIAs, reading FBI reports, reading CIA reports, etc., that are declassified will give you a much bigger picture, which this info is telling you guys right now about the Saudis recently was declassified, but he had it for the better part of a decade.
Partly declassified. So as far as Osama Basnan and Omar Bayoumi being this little financial conduits between the Saudi state and Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Midhar, that's in the newly unredacted portion of the JS report, the joint inquiry from the Senate into September 11th, that got declassified. But as far as the CIA following these guys to an Al-Qaeda summit meeting in Malaysia, that's not in the JS report. But that was corroborated by Private Manning and from WikiLeaks and Operation Encore and other sources. So what I did is just connected all the dots without explaining how I laid it out for people.
Gotcha. All right, let's keep rolling it.
More on the Saudi role in 9/11, not contained in the 28 pages. And more importantly, they were not the only state actor.
Pause.
There are 1,800 pages worth of.
Okay, guys, what you're seeing right there is called an FBI 302. And an FBI 302 is basically their form they use when they write reports. Okay, you guys are going to see quite a bit of that, especially once we get into them boys. So when you guys see stuff like this is a declassified FBI report of investigation, also known as a 302. Let's keep going.
Not 304.
not 304,
field
guys.
investigation reports of Israeli involvement in 9/11, and it goes well beyond the infamous dancing Israelis and art students firing. Israel had at least 5 different moving companies they used as fronts.
Look at how much is redacted.
It's used by a 9.
All right, shall we stop it here and move on over to Rumble?
Yeah, because that's going to get into sensitive things for YouTube. But just look at the big white squares on there. Like, and there's a camera and, you know.
All right.
Yeah.
So, guys, I'll read these chats, and then we're going to go into – so we covered the Saudi Arabian involvement. We covered the World Trade Center. Now we're going to get into the third part, which is not safe for YouTube. But let me read these chats real quick, and then we'll switch. So we got Inner Circle Trader goes, thanks, Ryan Dawson. Love from Somalia. Found you on the ADL website. I'm not going to go into what ADL. Y'all could go ahead and Google it if you guys want.
Well, I agree with Elon. Just drop the A off of it.
Oh, man. Invocator, $10. WStream Dawson. Any other WW World War II truth resources besides Hellstorm?
Yeah, there's a lot of things on World War II. That's one of the most well-covered wars ever.
Yep. James Gibbs goes, Myron Fresh, Chris, Big Mo, thanks for the things you do every day to help better men. You've helped me a lot, Ryan. Thank you, my man, for doing what you do. Appreciate that.
It's not easy.
Immortal Chaos goes, King of Kings. All right. I don't play games goes, calling Reach for dancing with a girl, but Myron was in bed with dudes. Bro, see, this is the thing. You guys are clowns. I was an athlete in college, bro. And that photo that was taken, they fucking came in and woke me up. That's how that photo was there. Because, like, we're on a training trip. I'll fucking explain this shit. Actually,
I mean, honestly, guys, like, use common sense, man.
Dude, they're referring to the picture where my buddy jumped in bed with me.
I know.
So, guys, we're on a training trip in Cocoa Beach, Florida. We used to get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. As you guys know, I'm not a morning guy. So that day, they fucking ran into the room, surprised me, and then jumped on me there. And someone snapped a picture while I was there like this, and he was on the side to give me a hug. But, like, we didn't sleep there, you weirdos. They fucking came in and woke my ass up and fucked around with me. And this is what it's like when you were a Division I athlete. But people don't have friends or buddies or whatever.
If you play any sports as a guy, you know how it is, bro. Your teammate's gonna mess you up, play around. It's just
can't believe I gotta
stuff,
explain
man.
this shit, bro. Y'all are like literally ridiculous,
bro.
But anyway, you could tell who does and doesn't have friends or doesn't play sports. Omar Pimentel goes,
I feel like I should tell the tiger donkey story here.
What's
because,
that?
Yeah.
A real quick little thing from Buddhism. There's a donkey and a tiger were in an argument, and the donkey got kind of heated. The donkey was saying, the grass is blue. And the tiger said, no, the grass is green. And they continue this fight, and they take it up to the lion. And the donkey says to the lion, surely the grass is blue. And the lion says, yes, the grass is blue. Yeah, well, the tiger keeps annoying and bothering me that he keeps saying the grass is green. You should punish him. And he says, well, for the next 5 months, the tiger will walk in silence. And the donkey's all happy, and he skips away. He, he, he. And the tiger says he'll accept his punishment after he asks the lion a few things. He says, surely, King, you know the grass is green. He said, indeed, the grass is green. Well, if the grass is green, why am I being punished? And he says to the tiger, because a noble and intelligent creature like you already knows the grass is green and should not waste his time arguing with a donkey, much less bringing this matter to me and wasting my time.
I like that, man. I like that one right there.
There you go. W line.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess I don't play games.
You don't be I've been guilty of being a tiger too and arguing with donkeys, but
yeah,
you want to be more like the lion. Like when a donkey is just saying stuff like, denying dinosaurs or saying the earth's flat, or whatever, it's not worth.
Yeah.
Like some people are beyond reach, like, oh, I have a picture of you doing this. And damn well, like I heard your explanation, but like it didn't even warrant an explanation.
Ryan,
people are going to believe what they want to because of whatever's psychologically gratifying for themselves. They don't care about the truth. And they're not arguing in good faith. They're donkeys.
Ryan, you know why I can relate so much? Because Chris thinks the earth is flat. But I don't argue with him.
Yeah, no, I like that story.
Well, everything's flat when you're lying on your back all day. Sorry, I don't even know why everybody calls him lazy.
It's funny. That dude paid $20 to say that, and it's like, bro, you're fucking low IQ. But whatever, it is what it is, man.
$20 from a donkey. I mean, good.
Fucking retard. Omar Pimentel goes, Ryan, is the COVID-19 vaccine
Can't talk about that on YouTube.
Yeah. If yes, what are some steps in order? Whatever, we'll move on. We might talk about that on Rumble. Ryan, FNF and Clint from Liberty Lockdown are both in Miami. Please vouch for Clint to be future FNF guest. Cross the Road Rock. Clint says he's expert on financials, mortgages, ESG, and retired young from his business. Okay. Then we got here.
Yeah, I support that.
Okay. He goes, J Soul Life goes, what about the mole? Osama bin Laden had 3 different government units in the Army, CIA, and the FBI. We alluded to that earlier. Charles goes, for the algorithm for the win, I suppose now I should say for ChatGPT 5 AI and shit. Haha, enough love, guys. Keep growing. Appreciate that. James goes, do the people that orchestrated all this also have connections with ESG scores and S&Ps? You'll see in a bit. Chris, we're going 20 and up, right?
Yep.
Okay. Andrew Graff, 50. Appreciate that so much. And I think we're caught up. So, guys, we're going to go ahead over to Rumble. So for some of you guys that just joined, we recapped with the World Trade Center bombing from 1993. We went into Saudi Arabian nationals doing a dry run in 1999, trying to hijack a plane and failing in the effort, trying to say that they were going to the bathroom. LOL. Then we got 2 of the Saudi Arabian nationals that were involved in the hijackings getting money from government officials of Saudi Arabia.
They both had to pee at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't make sense. Andrew Graff, by the way, sent $49.99 just so it would not be a Ulysses Grant. I gotcha.
And then we covered we covered the money movement, and then we covered the
money transfer between
between the Saudis and the governments. Government officials. And then, now we're going to get into the other stuff, guys. We're going to get into the third component, aka them boys involved. So we're going to go ahead and switch over to
it's going to be
here.
Unfiltered.
This has all been recapped so far.
Yes, guys. So we're killing all the other streams. Go ahead, Chris. And we're going to kill Twitter right now, too.
And end up on Rumble only.
And go to Rumble. So, guys, rumble.com/freshfit. The link is at the top of the description. Come on over right now, guys. Come on over. We're going to switch over to Rumble right now.
Let's go. All right, we're back.
All right, cool.
Freedom. I don't have to walk on eggshells.
Yeah. Now we can go ahead and to talk about
them boys.
Yeah. So you want us to keep rolling the clip real quick, Ryan? Because I guess that dovetails into the next part.
Yeah, we could answer that COVID question too if they want. If you have it, I don't know.
Answer real quick, and then we'll get back to the video. Go ahead.
I just saw the word and said nope. So what was it?
Ryan, is the COVID-19 vaccine contagious? If yes, what are some steps to take in order to prevent it? Also, do you have a documentary on COVID-19?
I don't think a vaccine is contagious. They're talking about shedding, I assume. I don't think so. I don't have a documentary on COVID, but I have a debunking of a dumb documentary called Died Suddenly. That was just kook stuff. And, that doesn't help us when someone is that I'll paraphrase Nietzsche, like nothing hurts your argument more or, your side more than an idiot arguing on your behalf. And that's kind of what we got with Stu Peters and stuff. The people that think viruses aren't real and, 5G did it or whatever. That stuff kookifies. This is why people don't take conspiracies seriously.
Yep.
Is because of all the dumb ones. And so, look, the COVID vaccines are useless. They don't prevent you from getting it. They don't prevent you from spreading it. It was just a line item for Big Pharma. And they probably have, in some people, disastrous side effects, is what it appears.
Yeah. Quick side note: you can't destroy the truth, but you can confuse the truth.
Yeah, so you definitely can.
Yep.
All right, so we're on Rumble. We're climbing up to 10,000 live viewers, guys. So
like
the video.
It's called the tar baby tactic. If you know the story of the tar baby.
Wait,
right? For a rabbit.
For me?
No, the
I see what you're
all right, let's go back to the video that we're rolling where we started and rewind it like maybe 20 seconds, Chris, because he starts to get into Israel here. So rewind it just a little bit
before the
no,
front.
Yeah, just like maybe 10, 20
that
seconds.
on the screen is about the New Jersey cell. I can do that from memory.
Okay. We'll finish the clip and then we'll go through and you'll fill in the holes. All right, let's go, Chris. Play it.
In 9/11, and it goes well beyond the infamous dancing Israelis and art students firing. Israel had at least 5 different moving companies they used as fronts, one of which was used by a 9/11 hijacker. Like the Saudis, they too lived next door to and followed around 9/11 hijackers. The Mossad filmed and celebrated the 9/11 attacks. In fact, 2 Israeli intelligence operatives were the first cousins of the pilot who hijacked Flight 93. But it goes much deeper than that. And the methods of financing through intermediaries is the same.
So that was Ali Al-Jarrah and Youssef Al-Jarrah, who were first cousins from Ziad Al-Jarrah, the supposed pilot on 93, whose voice is not on the black box.
So let me get this straight. You're telling me one of the 9/11 hijackers was directly related to an Israeli who was a part of Mossad?
They were spying on Hezbollah. So I don't know if it was just Israeli intelligence.
Okay.
So it's just like you've got the NSA, the DHS, the CIA, the FBI. Israel has a bunch of little 3-letter networks too. It's not just Mossad.
Yeah.
But they were Israeli intelligence operatives. One had been embedded since Hezbollah's inception in the 80s. Ali Al-Jarrah had been a spy for Israel, an Arab spy. Now, this isn't like 33rd degree cousins. And when I came out with this story, and it was reported in USA Today and some papers covered it, but Alex Jones starts saying Bush and Kerry are 33rd degree cousins, blah, blah, playing all this stuff like everybody's degrees of Kevin Bacon type cousins. No, his uncle's sons, all right, his first cousins were not only Israelis, they were Israeli intelligence operatives.
Wow.
Working in Lebanon to spy on Hezbollah.
Can't make it up.
That should have been explosive news. Like, what a coincidence. A 9/11 hijacker has family that works for Israeli intel. And Israeli intel was celebrating the attack. And then the anthrax note said, "Death to America, death to Israel," and conflated it with Iraq, which Israel wanted us to topple. Gee, what's going on?
Now you don't know why we moved over to Rumble.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was waiting to say that. I was
Guys, I don't think you guys understand how explosive that is. One of the 9/11 hijackers' first cousins was an operative for Israeli intelligence, guys, which you guys are going to see here. This is not the first time we're going to mention.
Let me explain what that means. It means Israel had moles embedded in the Al-Qaeda cells, and one of them was Ziad Al-Jarrah. Duh.
Okay, let's keep rolling it. Now y'all know why we're on Rumble now. All right,
can't make
let's
this
keep
shit
going,
up, bro.
Created a 5-hour-long film detailing the Saudi and Israeli roles in 9/11, as well as the Israeli partisan role in lying about Iraq to create a war there. And I explained the methods of using privateer proxy forces and jointly conducted covert intelligence operations before and after 9/11. From the Mujahideen to ISIS, the U.S. and their Safari Club partners have been aiding al-Qaeda groups. When you understand the history, 9/11 is not that shocking.
Bam.
Yeah.
All right.
9/11 research for grown-ups. We made a Facebook group. It lasted half a day. And it got banned.
Wow. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, and guys, we're just scratching the surface. So
the Safari Club, you know what that is? I mentioned that too. I mean, that was something that was it was Morocco, France, and the United States and Israel. And well, the U.S. and Israel had already been tied at the hip since murdering Kennedy. I'm not going to open that can of worms, but
which we're going to talk about JFK on this pod later on, guys. Don't worry, we will do an episode.
We definitely going to talk about that and RFK. There was the Yom Kippur War in 1973, and as in response to that, you had the OPEC oil weapon, where the Saudis, who have the largest oil reserves, they were withholding oil, and there was huge gas lines in the United States in the 70s. So this is 3 years after Yom Kippur. They decide in 1976 to bring Saudi Arabia into the Safari Club to break up the OPEC oil monopoly. and basically bring them under the wing and join the Israeli-U.S. nexus that already existed since '63. So this trio would last. This is why, look at the first Gulf War. Who does Saddam send Scud missiles at? Saudi Arabia and Israel. And you'll see Saudi Arabia and Israel working hand in glove with ISIS, working hand in glove with Al-Qaeda, and both states are all over September 11th.
And that's a dirty little secret that no one.
And this is a group. They're always talking about the Club of Rome, Illuminati, or the Bilderberg, whatever. I'm like, the Safari Club is a real thing, and not talked about by 9/11 truthers.
Okay, so now we're going to get into the Israeli links with 9/11. We covered the Saudi Arabian side. Now we're going to go ahead and go into the thing, Israeli side. Can you go ahead?
Still recapping. I mean, you should show the
we're going to pull
truck
up the
bombs,
recaps, right?
and then we'll get into the urban moving systems.
Okay, cool. So next tab, Chris, which should be, hold on, I'll pull it up on screen real fast, Chris.
Because there are Zoomers that weren't alive or were just little kids when this happened, so they probably didn't see this because it only came on. It was only on TV one time.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and play the bombs that went off at the bottom of the towers, guys. And this is again recapping from a part that we covered last time we had Ryan on. So let's go ahead and enlarge that and hit play real quick, Chris.
To ISIS, the U.S. and their
larger, Chris.
It started at.
Yeah. No, it's fine. No, you got it right. Yeah, I know. It looks like it's a double. Just enlarge that.
Yeah, it'll roll right in.
Yeah. More or less you are.
All right, this is from the last episode we did, guys. Go ahead, run the clip, Chris.
16 seconds. Just play is easier.
Okay. Yeah. Play it through.
Yeah.
Safari Club partners have been aiding Al-Qaeda groups. When you understand the history, 9/11 is not that shocking.
I'm going to show you some live clips about the truck bombings in case you never saw them, forgot about them, or don't believe me.
Just so you guys know, these are news clips that came out days or the day of 9/11, which no one shows anymore. Okay, so this is all proven shit. So let's go ahead and run it.
That's ABC right there.
Yep.
And also pay attention to these live reports about explosions at the base, the lobby, the basement of the building. These are reports from eyewitnesses, survivors, firemen, police, and the FBI. This would all get a nice church-off whitewashing and be replaced by pancake theories on one extreme and disinformation ranging from everything from Bavarian death cults to space aliens on the other.
NBC's Pat Dawson is close to the scene of that attack. Pat?
Just moments ago, I spoke to the chief of safety for the New York City Fire Department. He received word of the possibility of a secondary device, that is another bomb going off. He tried to get his men out as quickly as he could, but he said that there was another explosion which took place. And then an hour after the first hit here, or the first crash that took place, he said there was another explosion that took place in one of the towers here. According to his theory, he thinks that there were actually devices that were planted in the building. The second device he speculates was probably planted in the building.
Pause real quick.
People are saying now.
Guys, and just so you know, we're going to talk about
what he means by that in the building is in the parking garage, parked like vans that they had parked in there that already had bombs in them. You don't have to run around putting bombs on the wall or something. All you have to do is have a bomb in a truck and go park it.
And this is a live report of what's going on at that time as well. So no lies here, guys.
Yeah. And guys, don't worry. We're going to talk about who was responsible for these bombs very soon.
Who?
Let's keep going.
To the South Tower.
I was under the impression that it was just the actual collapse of the building, but some people are speculating that. I mean, I didn't want to say that because.
Maybe they had that was an incredible. That was an incredible explosion. That does not cause so much. I agree with you. I think it was the third plane, but again, no, it could have been something. It could have been something that was planted, or a bomb planted in the building.
But as soon as I got outside, I heard a second explosion and another rumble. Then a fire marshal came in and said we had to leave because if there was a third explosion, this building might not last.
And you were working there? Yes, I was right there. I was down in the basement. Came down. All of a sudden, the elevator blew up. Smoke. I dragged the guy out. His skin was hanging off, and I dragged him out. They saw an airliner going to one of those towers. Then, an hour later than that, we had that big explosion. much lower. I don't know what on earth caused that.
We've heard reports of secondary explosions after the aircraft impacted, whether in fact there wasn't something else at the base of the towers that in fact were the coup de grace to bring them to the ground.
Do we have Jim Smith available on microphone from Chopper 2 as he takes these pictures? Jim?
Yes, I am here, Michael.
Jim, tell us what's happening out there.
Oh my
We just
God.
witnessed some kind of secondary follow-up explosion on the World Trade Center number 2, the one that is on the south that is difficult to make out.
As effective as a bomb being dropped there. There were 2 bombs in effect. Commercial airliners flown into those 2 buildings and they came down. We presume because of the initial explosion, there may have been secondary explosions as well that were detonated in the building by these terrorists.
That would put us about a block and a half away from the site of where the explosion was. That area has just been evacuated because police have found what they describe as a suspicious device. And they fear that it might be something that could lead to another explosion. Obviously, there's a real sense of caution here on the part of police. I spoke with some police officials moments ago, Chris, and they told me that they have reason to believe that one of the explosions at the World Trade Center, aside from the ones that may have been caused by the impact of the plane with the building, may have been caused by a van that was parked in the building that may have had some type of explosive device in it. So their fear is that there may have been explosive device planted either in the building or in the adjacent area.
I'm okay, all right?
Pause. So you guys heard that right. They're talking, and remember, this is reporting that first came out on 9/11. They're talking about vans exploding at the bottom of the World Trade Center. Now, what does this mimic? Back in 1993, Ramzi Youssef tried the same exact thing, guys. He failed. He didn't put enough explosives in there, and it didn't knock the towers down. But now on the second run in 2001, 9/11, they go ahead and they got reports of suspicious vans with explosives, etc. But think about this. In the mainstream media, no one ever covered that. In the official story, they don't talk about exploding vans at all.
Because when you add in that factor,
then you have to add in them boys if you add in that factor.
And everything else.
Well, let me add something to this too, because somebody called the authorities and said that they had witnessed Palestinian bomb makers at the airport driving around in vans. So it seemed like they were going to rope in because they had news ready, like Charlie Rose and other like talking heads were ready to associate Al-Qaeda, Hamas, and Hezbollah together, even though that doesn't make any sense to Shia and Sunni or whatever. But when the Israelis got caught celebrating the attacks in vans and they went back to their moving systems, they had to pull an audible. So all the stories about vans and truck bombs disappeared. Because the cops, instead of like stopping, I think they said they're headed toward the Holland Tunnel. Well, instead of just stopping, putting a dragnet up at the Holland Tunnel, they put a dragnet at all entrances, the Lincoln Tunnel, Holland Tunnel, and George Washington Bridge. That's how they nabbed a car at the George Washington Bridge, and it wasn't Palestinians.
Yep. And conveniently so, guys, in the mainstream narrative, the official story, they don't talk about vans at all because you can't talk about exploding vans without talking about them boys. So let's keep going.
You want to call your mother?
Bam, you heard it. Yo, so see, and guys, the reason why we're playing this for y'all, September 11th,
copy of it.
Find this because that's me talking there.
We just heard another explosion. They're handing out gloves and masks.
I think a bomb went off the lobby first, then a plane hit the building, then another plane hit the other building. But when I was coming through the doors on the other side of the Trade Center, something, either they blew the lobby up or something, because it blew the glass out of the doors and knocked us all down. And I got smoke and everything on me. I just feel a little shook up because I got blasted, you know. So
the ladies that are with me were in the World Trade Center in the first building and escaped through the lobby. Where they report they believe there was a bomb in the lobby. And even the turnstile was burnt and was sticking up, and they just told us to run. And as we were coming out, we passed the lobby. There was no lobby. So I believe the bomb hit the lobby first, and a couple of seconds in the first plane hit. And all of a sudden, it sounded like, I don't know where the subway is, but it sounded like a subway collision, a bomb. And it was just pounding, boom, boom, boom. And I literally thought the subway had exploded, and all the cars ran on top of it. It was just so loud. I was
intersecting the subway, heading towards the World Trade Center, right around Franklin Street. And after the first explosion, the subway station started to fill with smoke. The subway cars started to fill with smoke, and the subways actually stopped. Was that he was in the lobby of World Trade Center 1 when the first plane hit. And when the debris started coming down, he went back.
We can pause here for a second.
Go ahead. Yeah. Oh, no. Oh, I think that was from the video. Okay. No, my bad. Yeah, that was from the video.
Yeah, that was me. yeah.
The video. Keep going, Chris.
I was going to say.
Firefighters, fast forward a bit. Yep.
Why?
So chat that's hey, autograph.
Fast forward.
Yeah, fast forward. That's fine. And similarities to 2000. Keep going.
It's black, but it's like dark black.
That is the working theory at this.
Okay, cool. At about 10:45 p.m., September 11th.
Jack Kelly. Now, he is a foreign correspondent. He has some information about these attacks. Jack, what can you tell us happened first in New York?
Apparently, what appears to happen is that at the same time two planes hit the building, that the FBI most likely thinks that there was a car or truck packed with explosives underneath the buildings, which also exploded at the same time and brought both of them down.
Now, that's the first time we're hearing that. So 2 planes and explosives that were in the building. Is that correct?
That is the working theory at this point. That is still unconfirmed. That is what the FBI is going on at this point.
The New York City Police Department has a report that the FBI is responding to New Jersey because a truck reportedly loaded with explosives has been stopped by authorities on the road there, and the men with that truck have been detained. Members of the Joint Terrorist Task Force, according to the New York police officials, are responding to question those people. I want to underline that all the phones to police headquarters and to the FBI from.
And guys, JTTF, Joint Terrorism Task Force. That's basically it's a task force comprised of FBI and other law enforcement agencies that work together to go after terrorists. So basically, on September 11th, y'all see here, they went to go stop a van at around 11 p.m. All right. Let's keep going, and then let's see what they find.
Here seem to be disabled.
They stopped the truck.
Yeah, pause that for a second.
Full of explosives.
Is that live?
Nope, that wasn't our Ryan. That was the Ryan from before. Keep going.
Yes, the past Ryan.
Ryan with no hat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Think about that. They cut the media off from the cops and the FBI. Right. But they gave him the working theory, and he just announced it very calmly that they believe there was a truck bomb in tandem with the plane attacks, which correlates with all the secondary explosions people heard.
Yep.
And then they said police have pulled over a van filled with explosives. And they have the men in custody. That's what he just said. And this is going to be corroborated again by CBS and twice and CNN and so on. So go ahead and continue.
They arrested them. Those 2 men and their explosives are in police custody tonight, and another tragedy has been averted.
Still alive in the rubble in and around the World Trade Center. And word late tonight that 2 suspects are in FBI custody after a truckload of explosives was discovered around the George Washington Bridge. That bridge links New York to New Jersey over the Hudson River. Whether the discovery of those explosives had anything to do with other events today is unclear. The FBI has 2 suspects in hand, said the truck load of explosives, enough explosives were in the truck to do great damage to the George Washington Bridge. But they arrested the 2 suspects and they're questioning them as we speak.
And that it was near the George Washington Bridge. There were 2 or 3 men who were in the van. The van was pulled over. It is not clear why the van was pulled over, but when it was, law enforcers found tons of explosives inside of the van.
George Washington Bridge, Marcia.
Well, you know, Todd, it's really an amazing thing. Most of New York City's rescue operations and their police and fire departments have been concentrating their actions down in lower Manhattan, where the 2 planes hit the 2 towers of the World Trade Center. But some very intelligent and aggressive cops also stopped another terrorist attack from happening on the George Washington Bridge. CBS 2 has learned exclusively that 2 men are in custody tonight after being arrested at the George Washington Bridge with an entire truckload of explosives.
The FBI has now put out a nationwide APB, all points bulletin, for a white Chevy van with New Jersey registration. Written on the back is Urban Moving Systems.
Oh, here we go. I think this is where we're gonna have to transition, guys. All right. So even back then, we knew what time it was. So guys, so the purpose of that, guys, was to show you all the witness accounts, to include the mainstream media news, police officers, people that were on the ground, pretty much proving, explosions definitely went off at the World Trade Center. And the thing is that, and if you look at the official story, look at the 9/11 Commission report, which I think was released in 2004. Do they even mention explosives being heard by witnesses all over the place, Ryan?
No, but the following day, Giuliani and Bernard Kerik get questioned about it, and they don't deny that they have people in custody. They're just like, we can't talk about it.
Gotcha.
But we know Bernard Kerik had taken a trip to Israel in August from the 26th to the 29th, where he met with the governor of the Jewish agency and the richest man in Israel, a billionaire named Ertan Wertheimer, who gave Kerik a $500,000 loan through an intermediary named Steve Witkoff, who was a marble dealer that dealt with the Gambino family in New York. And he was cheating on his wife and taking bribes, and he ended up going to jail for a separate incident regarding fraud. His name was a decade, right? Bernard Kerik. He's a police commissioner of New York that found a passport on 9/11. He says.
So let's get this straight. So you're okay. So guys, after the 9/11 attack, obviously Rudy Giuliani was the mayor of New York at the time, right?
Yeah.
Him and the NYPD commissioner Bernard Kerik, who we're going to talk about here in a second, go ahead and make the announcement. Yes, the FBI are investigating. They're on the bridge, blah, blah, blah. But they never mentioned who actually was arrested on the bridge, who was involved on the bridge. And then this guy, prior to 9/11, had taken a trip to that certain homeland and met with a billionaire, one of the the second richest guy in Israel. He met with him.
No, the richest man in Israel at the time, and
got a loan from him.
Went and kissed the wall and did all that, and then he gets an unexplained massive loan with no conditions on how to repay it or anything, and it wasn't even given him directly by Ertime. He went through Steve Witkoff.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd have to do a show on the mob to get all into Kerik and what was going on in New York. But
I think the important thing to take away here is that Rudy Giuliani and the police commissioner, which if you guys go back and watch that interview, if you could find it, what ends up happening is the press asked them, hey, was it true that people were arrested on a bridge with explosives, blah, blah, blah? They pretty much stay vague. Well, Giuliani doesn't even touch the question. He just pulls it right to
Giuliani said he's smart. He always like, ask him. I'm not saying anything. And Kerik verifies that, people got arrested.
You think Rudy knew about it though?
Probably not.
Yeah,
so
I don't think he really was.
So what Kerik does is that he says, yeah, we know the FBI's out there arresting him, and he kept it kind of bland. But this guy, guys, ended up getting caught later on for tax evasion and arrested by the IRS. So you got a crooked NYPD commissioner accepting money from an Israeli billionaire. And on top of that, he found one of the passports, right, at Ground Zero, if I'm not mistaken,
somebody gave it to him. Right.
Somebody gave it to him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, tell me that's not a coincidence.
There's like knee-deep debris all over New York, and they find a paper passport that day.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. So now we're going to get into the Dancing Israeli, right? The recap portion. Can we pull up that thing real quick, Chris?
This is where we ended last time.
Yeah, this is kind of where we ended last time. So we're going to go to the next tab, Chris. Next tab where it says.
I think we covered well, maybe not. We can do it again anyway. It's not going to hurt anything.
So where do you want us to go from here? You want to show the picture first of who these guys were? Ryan?
Yeah, scroll right under that because I have their mug shots.
So these are the 5 guys that were in these. What's the name of the Urban Moving Systems?
Yeah, that's Omer Mamari, Oded Elner, Paul Kursberg, Sivan Kursberg, and Yaron Shmuel. And under that, there was a
scroll down some more.
Another FOIA. This guy John, I forgot his last name. He did, and he got some of the pictures, but they put white squares on their heads. So I just matched the clothing and put the mug shots on top of the proper bodies there.
That's them taking a photo, guys, at Doric Towers.
I think that one's on the roof of Urban Moving System, but they were at Doric Towers. Yeah.
All right. So do you want to talk? Do you want to talk about this, or do you have a clip that you want us to play from this?
So right above it, we'll get into Sivan first because he was the driver when they got pulled over.
But does this talk about how they were discovered by the lady or no?
Oh yes.
Okay, let's play it. Run
if
this.
If not, then I'll say it anyway. So
okay.
How to escape the heat if you don't have an air conditioner.
This commercial on Rumble.
It only takes 5 minutes.
It's fine. He's gonna let him skip.
Yeah, skip it.
In fact, the driver of the van when they were arrested, Sivan Kursberg, had been spotted twice in Doric Towers, once on the 9th floor and once in the elevator on September 10th.
Pause real quick. Guys, just so you know, these guys ended up getting stopped because a good Samaritan saw these guys dancing after the first tower was hit.
A lady
got suspicious, and she called the police and gave a description of the van. The police
Her
were
name was Maria Septinrelli, which I believe her last name means September in Italian.
Oh, wow. Talk about coincidence.
Yeah, we're living in a simulation.
So this woman sees these guys dancing after the first tower is hit. She's like, that's kind of fucking weird. She calls out writes down the plate of the van, the make and description, and she describes the 5 individuals. Then she reports it to the police.
Three.
Oh,
The 5 weren't there. She saw 3 individuals, and she saw them through binoculars, and so did her neighbor, and so did 2 men working that were putting up a billboard, and other witnesses in Doric Tower. There's just some film focused on her. She's not, the case doesn't rest just on her phone call, and she didn't call the cops until after her husband got home.
Yeah.
So she was there, and their neighbors were talking to each other and all that. When he gets home, they call, the bolo gets out, and about 3:06 in the afternoon, they got nabbed in the Meadowlands, almost immediately.
So that's how the police were able to get on these guys, just to explain how they got stopped. So, all right, let's roll back the clip. So now they know.
Before the attacks. He was positively identified in the police photos. The witness who saw him on the elevator voluntarily interjected several times that he was certain that he saw Sivan with another man and that they were speaking a foreign language. Interestingly, Sivan tried to lie and say he was a construction worker. The other man, who had dark hair, was not recognized in the photos. Could this man have been one of the occupants of the brown truck another witness saw parked behind the Urban Moving Systems van on 9/11? Was that truck a different style truck from Urban Moving Systems? The FBI concluded Urban Moving Systems was an intelligent front for the Israeli Mossad. Sivan and his brother were already on a database on the counterintelligence watch list. The truck may have been from another moving company.
So just so you guys, literally, the FBI identifies a couple of these Israeli nationals that are working for this Urban Moving Systems company as a front for a Jewish intelligence agency. And they also identify a couple of guys that are, from the Dancing Israelis, were operatives from an Israeli intelligence
They
agency.
were already on the database for counterintelligence. And the man that was in the elevator with Sivan was most likely Tomer Ben Dor, who is one of the art students. Anyway, I'm going to get into that later. So,
okay, we'll keep playing. But you guys, think of the significance of that. You got dudes that are dancing after the attack, and then you find out that they're Israeli intelligence.
Could you imagine the look on their faces, seeing people dancing after this terror is going on?
But it's crazy.
Flicking lighters like it's a rock concert.
Bro.
Ryan, this is nowhere in the 9/11 Commission report, is it? This stuff.
Yeah.
None of it is in the 9/11 Commission report, guys.
I wonder why.
Because after the 9/11 happened, just like with Kennedy with the Warren report, guys, the government conducts an investigation and figures out, hey, what led to this, etc. None of this was mentioned in the official 9/11 Commission report with Israel's ties to the situation. But you got guys dancing, watching, driving around in vans that have explosives, and they're all tied to Israeli intelligence, but no one mentions this.
And we're going to find out what happens to them after this whole event.
So let's keep going.
And the owner of the one of the front companies fled to Israel and was officially a 9/11 suspect, Dominic Suter.
Boom. Let's keep going.
Altogether. From notebooks seized during the Urban Moving Systems van's arrest, phone numbers traced back to 4 other moving companies. These were whited out in the FBI report. But from other sources and a lot of deduction, these companies were Classic International Movers, Moshi Movers Company, White Glove Movers, and Moving Systems Incorporated.
Pause.
From one of the notebooks in the Dancing Israeli.
So, guys, all those moving companies were tied to Israeli intelligence. Let's keep running.
And side note, what did it all have in common? Moving.
Yep.
Away.
And we're going to talk about why they ran moving companies of all types of businesses to run here in a little bit for y'all.
And eventually they moved fully away.
Fresh.
Just saying, right?
All right, let's keep running the clip.
Come on, that was funny, Ryan.
This van, there was a number going back to Classic International Movers. And CIM was believed by the Miami division, who was investigating 9/11, to have been utilized by one of the 19 alleged hijackers involved in the terrorist attacks. Why is a 9/11 hijacker working at a moving company full of Israelis? Sivan's name was also whited out in the report of who was witnessed at Doric Towers, but considering we have all their names from the police report and that Sivan Kursberg has the longest name, naturally the longest whited out portion is his name. Sivan had not only been spotted at Doric Towers on September 10th, but also earlier in the week in the lobby. The first thing he said to police, without any provocation, was, "We are Israeli. We are not your problem. Your problems are our problems. The Palestinians are the problem."
Could you guys fucking see that shit? So they get stopped by the police, immediately deflect blame to the Palestinians and say, "Yo, we're not your issue," etc., and try to deflect it. Tell me that's not crazy.
So why are you dancing then? Why are you happy about this whole scenario?
Yo,
it's almost like they knew someone was going to call the authorities about the Palestinian van thing and didn't know that they had been witnessed earlier. And no, we're looking for you.
And not only that, when these guys got caught, Ryan, didn't they all have return tickets to leave the United States the next day?
And money.
These 5 Israeli guys?
Not the next day, but they had immediate destinations. They went to India and Germany and Australia, and they were ready to go. They had skis in the back of the van. They were going to an airport. They couldn't figure out the logistics because the police had shut down all the tunnels and bridges.
Okay, so they were planning to leave the United States shortly after the attack.
They also had a party on September 10th in Brooklyn.
We're going to talk about that in a second here as well. All right, let's keep running it.
I'm not sure why Palestinians are a problem for New Jersey, but during interrogation, Sivan's "where were you" answer was even sillier than Yaren's. Like Eldner, he says that they got to work at 8 a.m. That's probably the time they usually got there. But then his story takes a nosedive. He said, after looking on the internet and taking pictures from the roof of the building, that he and blank blank left the office and were caught in heavy traffic. And sometime between 10 a.m. and noon, while attempting to return to their office, he and his friends stopped at a parking lot adjacent to an apartment building to take more photographs. Well, they certainly were not there between 10 o'clock and noon because the South Tower fell before 10 o'clock. And all the witnesses, plus their own photographs, placed them there hours before that. He was the second youngest of the bunch, not quite as apt at lying as his older brother. Unlike Eldner, Sivan does not mention getting gas. They did get gas, however, at 2:14 in the afternoon. That's confirmed by the last of the 76 photographs they took, which shows one of them with a squeegee wiping the window at a gas station. It's very unlikely that they needed gas in the morning and at 2 in the afternoon again.
Pause real quick. What Ryan is referring to, guys, is when these Israelis got caught, they had a photo, they had a camera with them. And in the photo roll, they were able to see the timestamps of when the photos were taken. That's how they were able to establish the timeline of where these guys had went and where they had been through the camera roll in the camera. And keep in mind also,
plus the witnesses,
and the witnesses. And then also keep in mind, guys, when they brought the people, when they caught these guys, they separated them immediately and independently interviewed each of them. All of them gave conflicting stories, which is a huge red flag.
Yep.
Okay. So that's
he did not know that they've been witnessed at Doric. So he's like, "Oh, we went there around 10 o'clock. You weren't there at 10 because in your own photographs, both buildings are still standing."
Boom.
Right.
There you go.
And there was a helicopter that was hovering over the Hudson River that they did some deduction about exactly what time. It was close to 9 a.m., like an hour before when he says he got there, right?
Because
at minimal. And it could have been earlier than that. But it was earlier than that because we find where they sent photos from the front of the building of a truck passing around to the back of the parking lot at 8:31 and hits at 8:46. So they were there waiting. There's a number of cigarettes. I mean, this is just a little bit extra evidence, but where they had been there for quite a while smoking and throwing them on the ground.
Wow. And not only that, guys, keep in mind, they didn't know that a witness saw them on top of the tower. So when the FBI stopped them, they're like, oh, they probably don't know that we were at Doric Tower. So they made all these lies up. All their stories were conflicting with the timelines versus what they said, the camera roll, and then the witnesses putting them at that location at that time. So they didn't know. That's why they gave these crazy lying ass stories.
And pushing on.
So with a moving van, you can basically be anywhere because tenants know each other and they know each other's cars. But if there's a moving van could be at any place because I guess somebody's moving in or moving out, right? So as long as they just sat in the car waiting, it wasn't a big deal. But when the plane hit, they all got out and started high-fiving and hugging and stuff. That's what was disturbing, because people looked out the window because they heard a kaboom. They looked down at the parking lot and they see these guys all jubilant. Like, why would you celebrate a plane crashing into a building? A bunch of people just died. What's wrong with you? Are you psychotic?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, let's keep going.
Them boys.
Them boys.
You think everyone died in that building?
Yeah.
Damn.
Of course, man. Wait, who knows gonna survive that, Fresh? All right, so now we're gonna go to the next tab, or no, go back to that original tab. Right? Go ahead, pull it up, Chris, real quick. So we talked about these guys. We showed that video clip, and then are we gonna go into? I think we covered this pretty much. So they get stopped.
Yeah, but I want them to see that and highlight it in yellow. It'll only take a second.
Where?
Because, yeah, right there.
Okay. So
Israeli nationals videotaped the terrorist attack. It wasn't just still pictures. The witnesses had them with one of those cameras that has the little door that opens with a window screen on it. You know
what I could do? Let me read it for the audience real quick. So, guys, what you guys are looking at right here is a redacted FBI report. Remember, I told you guys it's a 302. It goes, for ERF encloses an FD340A envelope is one original surveillance tape and 12 color photographs developed from the same. On September 14, 2001, the Newark Division of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, initiated a full field investigation predicated upon circumstances indicating that 5 Israeli nationals detained in conjunction with the twin bomb investigation had videotaped the terrorist attack on the World Trade Center and may have possessed foreknowledge of the same. At the time of their arrest, individuals had several cameras and rolls of film in their possession. FBI developed a film which had several photos of the World Trade Centers with smoke coming out in at least one of the towers. Since the volume and density of the smoke did not seem to be very great, it appeared that the photographs were taken at a very early stage in the WTC event. Why is this important? Because they gave a different timeline, guys, saying they weren't there at that time.
Later.
But the reality is that they were there when the first tower was hit, and they took pictures of it, contrary to what they told the FBI. Then it continues on. Each of the detained Israelis denied having used a video camera during attacks on the World Trade Center. Nonetheless, 2 of the detainees, blank and blank, and then it goes into their names and they obviously redact it. Numerous discrepancies in their statements, specifically as to their location during the time immediately preceding the attack on the World Trade Center, as well as photographs in which some of the Israelis appear visibly happy by the attacks, led FBI to further pursue a possible criminal link between these Israelis and the events associated with the WTC, World Trade Center. A search of the offices of Urban Moving Systems, the employer for all the Israelis, failed to uncover a video camera. However, FBI discovered several networked computers at Urban Moving Systems, which appeared inconsistent with both the small size of the business and the small number of employees in the office. And then it goes into a whole bunch of redacted shit. That's probably what they found when they searched the place. Then it goes, as a result of the investigation, was then referred to Squad C9, FBI Newark's Foreign Intelligence Squad, for further review and possible investigation. 2 more Israelis, blank and blank, were later polygraphed, blank, blank, blank.
Is there a reason?
So the 2 on the top is Jorn Schmel and Sivan Kursberg, and the 2 on the bottom is Mamari and Paul Kursberg.
Is there a reason why they made it blank?
Yeah, you know why.
Yeah, they didn't want to give their names, and that they were tied to Israeli intelligence.
But we had their names from the police report, so it didn't matter. And then everything that these guys were involved in, explosive experts and so on, they're not going to put that in there.
Yeah. Okay, so now, did you want to play anything else from this tab, Ryan, or do you want to move on?
Well, I mean, I've got a bit on each one of them. We went over this on the first one.
Yeah, on the first
one. But if you want to, you can go over whoever you want. There's Elner, there's Yaron, there's Paul, and there's Mamari at the end.
We did it last time.
Yeah, we did it last time. I mean, do you want to give them a quick summary between the 3 guys and with their different stories?
Well, I would just play the last one, Mamari, because
important.
I'll summarize the rest of it. Like, they all lie. Yaron says, he also messes up the timeline and all that, and so does Paul. Paul's interesting because he says later he got interviewed in Israel and he's on TV and he's saying, well, at first we thought it was an accident, No, you didn't, because you were celebrating the first plane hitting.
Yeah.
So why would you do that? You knew it was a terrorist attack because you're like, yeah, America's about to understand what we go through. We're going to blame this on our enemies. This is awesome. They knew exactly what it was.
Do you want to talk about what they found in the van, Ryan? Before
Also, in Elder's testimony, he had $4,700 cash, which is odd for a furniture moving employee in New York to just run around.
2001 is the equivalent to about 10,000 buying power now.
Right.
Question for you, Ryan. Do you want to talk about what they found in the van, or do you want to run this clip first? Because they found very interesting stuff in the van.
Yeah. So it kind of talked about it in Devon too. One was the notepad that had the phone numbers that associated with the other moving companies. The video camera that they're looking for was passed off to a woman whose last letter in her name is N. I think her name is Karen. But at White Glove, they passed off the video camera to her. So that's why they don't find it at Urban Moving Systems or in the car with them.
Okay.
Because they had borrowed it from her the day before.
Okay. And then do you want to talk about the poster that they found in there?
Yeah, well, this is sort of how I figured some of this out. Is there was some just innocuous stuff. I mean, they talk about how millimeter film and this camera and that and whatever, but there was a flyer for a birthday party that was held, and on that flyer there was the name of a DJ and had a number. So I called them up pretending to be a Zionist and found out about the party in Brooklyn, which is in Mamari's testimony too. So it's corroborated by that anyway. But that's how I know that they had borrowed a camera from the girl and returned it to her at White Glove the next day.
Wow. Hold on. So let me get this straight. FBI stops these 5 Israelis that were dancing, right? In a van.
Three
Israelis. Then when they actually stopped the van, there's 5 of them in there, right? And then
because they went to White Glove and picked up the other 2 guys.
Gotcha.
One of whom's a brother, right?
Just so you guys
on their way back, there's 5 people in the van.
Okay, so to keep everything nice and so you guys don't get confused, White Glove Movers and Urban Transport, they're basically all these companies, guys, are run by the same Israelis. Okay, they have different names, different companies, but they're all run by the same people essentially. So they catch the 3 guys that were dancing, get caught with 2 other Israelis later on, right, in the van. Obviously, after the FBI and the police stop this van, they search the van. They see the camera roll, the money, the passports, all this shit. Then they find a poster for a party, and there's a DJ's name and number in it. Ryan calls the fucking DJ and asks him about, hey, the party. And he finds out that on September 10th, the day before 9/11, these dancing Israelis had a fucking party in Brooklyn. Okay? I wonder why they were
on
partying.
a random Monday, right? Before that's why Mamari was asleep in the van. They had been partying because they knew what was coming in the morning.
Wow, guys, fucking crazy. So, and that's a little tidbit that Ryan had not talked about publicly. It's not anywhere in his movie. So you actually,
and also let me go through his LinkedIn and find his friends, and then I talked to the wife of one of the. I'm just saying this now on Fresh and Fit because it doesn't matter. I talked to Yaron Shmuel's wife.
Did you bang her?
Not as Ryan Dawson, I had made up name and everything, but yeah, I got some more info. These people are sick, dude. And they were detained for 71 days and a lot of pressure came and they let them go. They're like, yeah, I guess they're not involved in this. They absolutely were. What was going on is a moving company is the perfect front because A, it lets you be in front of whatever property you want. It's not suspicious. It's like, oh, somebody's getting moved in or out. B, it gives you access to commercial properties and residential property. You can go into buildings like the World Trade Center, for example. If you wanted to move something in or out of a building and you have a moving company and you have boxes and stuff, it's the perfect cover.
Yeah.
If Al-Qaeda is moving around and you need to follow them, it's still a perfect cover. And these vans also can double as surveillance because you don't need any furniture in the back. You can set up whatever you want in the back of a moving truck. And so we're going to get into this. What appeared to have happened is there's already an art student spy ring on the DEA that was spying on the authorities who could have nabbed the local authorities that could have nabbed Al-Qaeda. And then the moving companies were keeping tabs on Al-Qaeda itself and helping them avoid the local authorities.
And just so you guys understand what he means by this, so at the time, guys, 14, I think, of 14 or 16 of the hijackers were living right here in South Florida, guys, Hollywood, okay, Florida. Muhammad Atta had an address in Hollywood, Florida. That was the lead hijacker. Guess who else was down here in Florida and had a similar address? A couple of these same dancing Israelis were in Miami Beach. At the time, Muhammad Atta was down here.
All together.
Then all of a sudden, they're in New York when the planes are hitting the towers. Please explain to me how these guys are pretty much in the same geographic area as the terrorists at all times.
They knew.
Not only that.
And did you see earlier, this is very vital, the Miami field office told the Newark office that an Al-Qaeda, I think it was Al-Omari, the one in the ATM photo with Muhammad Atta, used classic international movers to go from Florida to New York.
Hold on. So you're telling me one of the hijackers used one of these Israeli moving companies to move?
They actually moved him. Yeah. They gave him logistical support.
So not only was it
the chutzpah of that, right? Like props.
So you got Israeli intelligence members moving Al-Qaeda operatives around the United States so that they can go ahead and commit a terrorist attack.
Under the cover of a moving company.
Under the cover of a moving company.
You also had telecommunications company running cover for them out of Andox, Converse, and InfoSeek. We're going to get to that later. But see, people get confused. They, well, what were the art students then? I'm going to talk about the art students. But the art student, like, why would you create a brand new cell when you already have an existing cell embedded in the United States that you could expand on? Right. And so they were already spying on the DEA for their $80 billion ecstasy trade, which I explained in the beginning of my film, how you need like off the books budgets. Narcotics is one of their favorite things. So all you have to do is expand on that. A lot of people, because of Hollywood, think that the CIA is, you know, out there doing CSI type stuff. Actually, it's the DEA. When you want to talk about the nitty gritty stuff, when the people have informants and have, you know, moles inside organizations, it's the DEA. It's not the CIA. The CIA does that abroad, but within the borders of the United States, it's not the FBI either. It's the DEA. And that's the ones the Israelis are worried about spying on, because they already had the CIA compromised.
Yeah. All right. And we're going to talk about so guys, to keep things nice and simple for you guys, think of it this way. There's 3 different cells of Israelis involved in this situation. You got the moving systems guys, then you got the art students dealing with DEA, and then we're going to talk about another ring out of Tennessee. Okay, so just you guys, so keep that in the back of your mind. 3 different cells. One in New York.
Your magic heating and plumbing crews, yeah.
Yes.
And to make it, and I have a working theory that I'll explain right now. I think that some of the FBI purposely look the other way on 9/11 suspects because some of the Taliban financiers of the operation overlap with an illegal nuclear technology smuggling ring from AQ Khan out of Pakistan, who was working with Israeli and Turkish moles inside the FBI. So that's, when we come to it, I'll explain that further. But I just want you to know, it's not incompetence. And it wasn't like they wanted 9/11 to happen. It was more or less the profits they were making from selling nuclear secrets and technology, and the backlash that would happen if that got uncovered overlap with the same suspects. So they couldn't bust one without busting themselves. This is why I think they outed Brewster Jennings and Associates, which was a CIA front company that was providing cover for agents who were tracking nuclear weapons proliferation. This is the case with Valerie Plame and Judith Miller and da-da-da-da-da. All this is in the film. But when I was reviewing it before this show, I found some white hot new information that I'm formulating. Like, I didn't have time yesterday, but it's all written right here. And we're going to get into it. I'm actually remaking Empire Unmasked. GiveSendGo.com/911. We're going to hit them hard. We're going to body slam the Matrix with this film if we can get it done.
Gotcha. It's going to be a remade version.
Remade plus the added information about the nuclear tech. See, I did a separate film, as you know, a NUMEC, the Nuclear Material and Equipment Corporation. And so the first time I was going through 9/11, these names weren't red flags the way they are to me now, right? I know the networks and businesses and things. So when I was reviewing it, I had a little aha moment and went back and I figured some more things out. So in the remake, a lot of this, Vimeo kicked us off, and some of the clips about the bombs and stuff were pulled off of VHS tapes because that's what I had. So it looks all blurry and everything. But we can find those same clips now. So the new film's going to look really crisp and readable.
Gotcha. All right. So we're going to go back to the interview for one of the other guys. Let's pull this up, Chris. Mamari, right?
Mamari?
Yeah, the one on the bottom.
Okay. Let's go ahead and run the clip. This is one of the guys that was interviewed, guys, that was caught in the van.
He's separate from the other four.
Okay.
How to escape the heat if you don't have an air conditioner. This only takes 5 minutes.
That's pretty smart.
Mamari was the youngest of the group. He was not at Dork Tower celebrating, but he did take a couple pictures from the roof of Urban Moving Systems. One possibly of his boss and another employee, and another one of 2 other employees. He broke down crying several times during his interrogation. He lied, but then later admitted that he lied, and then he became cooperative. It appears he passed his second polygraph test, but even though the results are blanked out, either he passed it or it was inconclusive. The context is that he was being cooperative, but that blank, who was at Dork Towers, was not, and his results have several lines blanked out. From memory, we learned that the 5 of them were all in Brooklyn the day before, at Kurtzberg's apartment. Funny that the day before the terrorist attack, all of them were together. Mamari did not travel with or arrive with the other 4 on 9/11. He took the A train to the 126 bus and arrived at Urban Movie Systems well after 9:15. The other 4 Israelis and other employees were taking pictures on the roof. Listen, because this is key. According to the FBI's document, Blank came down and told Mamari that they are taking down the second building and that they are going to see it from the roof.
What the fuck, bro? We are taking down the second building. Guys, that's playing it. Rewind it just like 5 seconds, Chris. I'm going to read that from the fucking report real quick for y'all. Okay. This comes from the FBI.
The blue is what I wrote.
Okay. It goes, Blank told him that they were taking down the second building and they were going to see it from the roof. At the time, Blank believed that the authorities had purposely collapsed the building to prevent the additional damage that would be caused the building tumbling to its side. It was not until later that night when he saw a TV news report in jail that he realized the planes had caused the building's collapse. So,
bam.
Guys, what the fuck? Prior knowledge was known, but this is not out there in the mainstream media. Ryan had to go digging through FOIAs and reading hundreds of FBI reports.
That's one sentence in a 1,800-page report.
Matching names and faces.
Yeah, I filled out all the blanks with the names and things. The bus and the train I knew from other reports. So that's why you see me fill it in sometimes. But
so the other Israelis told them they are
this corroborates the idea that there were some kind of truck bomb in the building to sort of jiggle it a little, make it come down. And there's seismic evidence for that too, and witnesses and so on. But this is weird. They are going to take, who is they? So he assumes, they must be the authorities. But then the authorities say, oh, no, we didn't take down the building. It just fell from the fire from the planes, right? So he gets spooked. Now, they're all on the roof of Urban Moving Systems before they take down the second building. So they're there, they're watching that, they're taking pictures and so on. Dominic Suter is most likely the guy that said, come up here with your camera.
Okay.
Because the letters fit with the space.
And guys, remember, Dominic Suter is the owner and president of Urban Moving Systems. He was named
16 hard drives, which you do not need for a moving company.
Which the FBI noticed that when they did a search. And also keep in mind, guys, Dominic Suter was officially named in the FBI investigation as a suspect.
And he left furniture stranded. He just closed down the business,
He
left
fled.
things like in the middle, like here, just leave a couch on the sidewalk, whatever. Everybody fled. And where does he go? Back to Israel.
Bam. As soon as he finds out that the FBI is raiding his moving companies,
gone.
He gets the fuck out of the United States, goes back to Israel. Not to mention, prior to 9/11, didn't he get like $1 million given to him by Israeli government?
He got it. He got a $500,000 loan from U.S. banks, but only in 2001, nothing the year before, and obviously nothing after, because he closed his business on September 11th. It's funny too that since his employees had plane tickets to go, like I said, Australia, Germany, Israel, how did they know that he was going to close the business down on a random Tuesday in September? Right? Like, oh, they're all going on vacation because they knew once the 9/11 happened, their job's over, because the whole point was getting Al Qaeda up to the moment, right?
You got money, plane tickets, and knowledge of the prior.
And maps. They also had maps of Doric Tower, a viewpoint, highlighted maps of where to be, and they also highlighted the World Trade Centers.
And Doric
that
Tower
was in the van.
Just so you guys know,
And Savan was a map maker in Israel, by the way, for the military.
Chris, can you Google Doric Towers real quick, guys? Doric Towers, if I'm not mistaken, is in Jersey City, and you guys are probably wondering, well, why the fuck were they in Jersey when this attack happened in New York? It's a high-rise building. From this tower, from this apartment building, you can clearly see the New York City skyline, guys. So that's where they were standing when they witnessed the attack in New Jersey.
I showed a picture of it. It said it showed the Freedom Tower because that's what was there, but it said this is where the towers used to be.
Like D-O-R-I-C.
D-O-R-I-C, yeah, Doric Tower.
And I think it's in Jersey City, if I'm not mistaken.
The thing is, you have to go behind the building to the parking lot, and that has the view of everything.
And this is Doric Towers right here, guys. And as you guys see, it's a big building, and it lets you see the New York skyline from the top. It's in Union City.
Or from the parking lot in the back too. So like where that pool is.
Scroll down to where the pool is real quick.
See, that's the thing with Google's going to show you the tower, not what you can see from the tower, right?
There's the pool. No, that second row right there. Click that. See, y'all can see how you can see the New York skyline from the pool. That's basically what they were able. I mean, they were standing in a different place, but y'all get the idea.
That's on the right side, the parking. Like in the clip of Savan, I showed myself like in a maroon jacket in the back, and you can see the skyline.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep rolling the clip there. Where we were.
That's crazy though.
Yeah, look at that. They're going to take the second building down.
Yeah.
That they are taking down the second building, and that they are going to see it from the roof. At the time, Amari believed the authorities took down the second building to keep it from toppling over. He didn't know until he saw a TV in jail that night that this was not the case. There's a giveaway sentence that lets us start filling in blanks. We know from the police report that Savan lived in Brooklyn. We also know that Paul and Savan were brothers. It lets us start filling in the blanks of the 6th FBI report on the full field investigation. A Rosetta Stone of redactions. From that, I conclude that Shmuel, or my boss, aka Dominic Suter, was who told Amari about the collapse. That they re-question Yaron leads me to believe that it's him. Any new names would have a first and last name, and that would be too long, and neither Oded or Elmer fit. What did he mean? They are taking down the second building. And how would he know that?
After all of this, Mamari goes around the corner to a deli, has lunch. He has a ham sandwich. He's not very kosher, apparently. He eats, and by the time he comes back, he finds out that his boss, Dominic Suter, had dismissed everybody. So they get in a company van. He gets in the van with Yarn and Elner and the Kursberg brothers, and they drive to another moving company, White Glove Movers. Now, that's only about 10 minutes away, and yet Mamari falls asleep. Now, either they didn't go directly there, or they went there and they were there for some time. Mamari claims that he was woken up at White Glove Movers because somebody threw a bag and a pair of skis into the back of the van. Then he says he fell asleep again and he didn't wake up. Most likely it was at White Glove where they passed off the video recorder, which many witnesses had seen, one with binoculars, because they did not have that on them when they were arrested in the van on Route 3.
Furthermore, the Miami field office contacted the New Jersey office about another moving company whose number was in the notebooks, which they believe was utilized by one of the 9/11 hijackers.
Boom.
4 men were detained from Classic International Movers. All of them were Israelis. All of them had entered the U.S. from various places in South America. And there's a huge blank section after that. Presented with a notepad which had numbers on it that was confiscated from the van, Mamari admitted that one of the numbers was to a Moroccan hash dealer who lived in New York. He claimed another number was the bank account of a girl who he owed money. However, this number was also the phone number of a man in South America who had known ties to Middle Eastern terrorists. The Israeli pressure lobbies pushed for this to be considered a coincidence, but it was obviously a phone number. The odds are very low that two such numbers were the same unless one was constructed as cover for the other in the chance that it had been discovered. Remember, Sivan was talking to somebody in Spanish in Doric Towers. These men are entering from South America. There's a number to somebody in South America with known ties to Middle Eastern terrorists. All these moving companies are connected. This is not just coincidence.
Pause.
But why?
Yeah, so you guys could see here, this is from the FBI 302, on approximately May 10, 2001, returned to Brooklyn and rented a room on blank and blank where he stayed for 1 month. On June 10, 2001, blank returned to Miami and stayed again with blank, obtained a Florida driver's license during this visit with issue date of July 31st, 2001. Blank states, and this is one of the Israelis, states his reason for getting a driver's license was to cut down on transportation coats and borrow a friend's car to drive places. Blank stayed with blank for 1 to 2 weeks. And then sometime after July 31st, 2001, based on the issue date of the driver's license, blank returned to New York to the same rented room as before. By this time, blank had joined him in New York from Israel. And then it continues on. So a lot of coincidences here, guys.
By the way, Tomer Ben-Dor, who was a Rutherford, New Jersey art student, entered from Buenos Aires in South America.
Okay, we're going to get into the art students here in a second, guys. All right, do you want to we'll keep running it, right, Ryan?
Sure.
Okay, and then
this is still the recap.
Yeah.
Would the Miami field office even know about a moving company in another state? 15 of the 19 hijackers lived in South Florida.
Pause. 15 of the 19 hijackers lived in South Florida, and who else lived in South Florida alongside? The dancing Israelis.
Yeah.
Crazy, bro. And these are the hijackers right here.
That's a clip.
See that little note I made?
Yeah. Pull it back up.
Jara lived in Florida too, but they don't list them in there. And that's the guy with the cousins in Israeli intelligence.
Yep. Fucking crazy connections here, man.
Hey, man. Networking.
Yeah, networking.
What the?
Sure, it's his war room.
Okay, so I think we're done with that one, right? Now we'll move on to the next one. You want to get into?
Yeah, I mean that's probably overkill because we talked about it in the last show.
So that's a full recap from last time.
Yeah. So now we're pretty much complete with that. Now we're gonna move on to the next tab, Chris.
The art students. Let's talk about them.
Okay. So now we're gonna talk about the art students and I think Anthrax. You want to give a quick overview on this thing? So we completed the moving company cell. Now let's talk about these art students. Can you give the people a quick overview on that before we?
Yeah, I think you jumped to Anthrax. Do you want to do Anthrax or art students first?
No, this one is it, right?
The one that starts with Israeli DEA groups is what you want.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, that's one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want me to read that first, or did you want to just go talk about it?
Yeah, you can read it. It's fine.
Okay. So let me read this.
I highlighted it.
Okay. Chris, can you enlarge mine? So
yeah, virtually.
So outside of the movie company cell, guys, there was also Israeli students that were infiltrating the DEA, aka the Drug Enforcement Administration.
Oh, they weren't really students, though.
They were frauds, but they're intelligence. So it goes here: virtually all of the scores of individuals questioned or detained by the DEA and other federal law and local law enforcement authorities were citizens of the state of Israel. They were generally organized in groups of 8 to 10 people with a single team leader, the Israeli DEA groups. They usually worked individually or in pairs carrying makeshift art portfolios. They visited scores of DEA offices, laboratories, and houses or apartments ostensibly to offer, I never can pronounce the word, to offer or show the paintings or prints in the portfolios for sale of promotion to DEA personnel. So you want to give a quick background on this, Ryan?
This is from the Gerald Shea Memorandum. so like a private wealthy individual did an investigation himself, right? And or at least got the momentum going. And so the DEA groups, like what we call the Israeli art students, they call the Israeli DEA groups because they were targeting the DEA. They were spying on the DEA. They were spying on offices and facilities and even their private residences.
Wow.
And so this is I've made some. Okay, so below that you see Carl Cameron, Lebanese reporter for Fox. This news report never saw TV. It was on the Fox website and got pulled because of Israeli pressure. But they did a 4-part series and they put that online at least.
Now,
and so you'll find out is 200 art students got arrested. That's why like you're gonna name them. I'm like, I'll tell you who the leaders were, but I'm not naming 200 people. Like, just go read it,
So real quick, Ryan, for the people that are wondering, okay, so you got the moving system cell. I can see how they're connected, but why the DEA and why Israeli art students? Why would they need to infiltrate the DEA?
Well, play the clips and I'll explain as it goes along. So
cool. All right.
It is an interesting story.
All right.
Carl, what about this question of advanced knowledge of what was going to happen on 9/11? How clear are investigators that some Israeli agents may have known something?
Well, it's very explosive information, obviously, and there's a great deal of evidence that they say they have collected, none of it necessarily conclusive. It's more when they put it all together. A bigger question, they say, is how could they not have known? Almost a direct quote, Brett.
Yep.
Wow.
So they arrest them all. They put it together. How could they not have known? Right? It's not like, oh, this is a smoking gun. It's just so many. It's death by 1,000 cuts. They definitely had advanced knowledge. We kind of proved that already with the urban moving system. I mean, they're celebrating the attack. The owner flees the country. All the evidence we just went through. But it just keeps getting worse.
All right. And just so you guys know, when those art students got arrested, they got arrested for immigration charges and deported. Not criminal. It was immigration arrest, if I'm not mistaken.
So they got basically.
Yeah, they were arrested by INS and then deported back to Israel.
As a free pass
because of pressure from Israeli government.
That's why. Okay.
All right, let's keep going.
Damn.
Let's run this second clip now.
It has been more than 16 years since a civilian working for the Navy was charged with passing secrets to Israel. Jonathan Pollard pled guilty to conspiracy to commit espionage and is serving a life sentence. At first, Israeli leaders claimed Pollard was part of a rogue operation, but later took responsibility for his work. Now, Fox News has learned some U.S. investigators believe that there are Israelis again very much engaged in spying in and on the U.S., who may have known things they didn't tell us before September 11th. Fox News correspondent Carl Cameron has details in the first of a 4-part series.
Since September 11th, more than 60 Israelis have been arrested or detained.
200 plus.
Yep.
A handful of active Israeli military were among those detained, according to investigators, who say some of the detainees also failed polygraph questions when asked about alleged surveillance activities against and in the United States. Investigators suspect that the Israelis may have gathered intelligence about the attacks in advance and not shared it. A highly placed investigator said there are, quote, tie-ins, but when asked for details, he flatly refused to describe them, saying, quote, evidence linking these Israelis to 911 is classified. I cannot tell you about evidence that has been gathered. It's classified information. Fox News has learned that one group of Israelis, spotted in North Carolina recently, is suspected of keeping an apartment in California to spy on a group of Arabs who the United States is also investigating for links to terrorism. Numerous classified documents obtained by Fox News indicate that even prior to September 11th, as many as 140 other Israelis had been detained or arrested in a secretive and sprawling investigation into suspected espionage by Israelis in the United States.
Wow.
Investigators from numerous government agencies are part of a working group that's been compiling evidence since the mid-90s. These documents detail hundreds of incidents in cities and towns across the country that investigators say, quote, may well be an organized intelligence gathering activity. The first part of the investigation focuses on Israelis who say they are art students from the University of Jerusalem and Bezalel Academy. They repeatedly made contact with U.S. government personnel, the report says, by saying they wanted to sell cheap art or handiwork. Documents say they, quote, targeted and penetrated military bases.
Pause.
The DEA, FBI,
We got some?
No, just pause.
Oh, you meant okay.
Penetrated.
Keep going.
and dozens of other government facilities, and even secret offices and unlisted private homes of law enforcement and intelligence personnel. The majority of those questioned, quote, stated they served in military intelligence, electronic surveillance intercept, and or explosive ordnance units. A General Accounting Office investigation referred to Israel as Country A and said, quote, according to a U.S. intelligence agency, the government of Country A conducts the most aggressive espionage operation against the U.S. of any U.S. ally.
Wow.
Foreign country A.
So you got a bunch of art students, quote unquote,
right?
Volunteering or going to, U.S. law enforcement intelligence agencies trying to get involved.
But okay, they're art students. How can they, in quote, penetrate government agencies
As art students?
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Ryan.
How's that a thing?
Well, they're just using art as a pretext to get into their house or get into their office, and they're going to bug it. They're also we call it the glitter cats. They had these like metallic type paintings, and Mike Rivera was explaining to me how you can actually bounce a radar off of that from the outside, so it actually enhanced their snooping capacities. I don't know enough about the tech side of it, but the DEA said itself, like, they are trying to spy on our facilities. So it gives them access. It gets them into where they live, where they work. And so whether there's a bug in the painting or just they put a bug somewhere while they're delivering it, who knows? But they wanted access, and they were also trying to set up honey traps, because in all these teams, there are a lot of young women in their 20s that will accompany them trying to sell this art. And so that's just to get their foot in the door. And they're trying to find what we call hooking points to entrap these guys and compromise them. It is a go-to tactic of the Israelis.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's not the first time. Honey trapping is basically using an attractive woman to get a guy jammed up as a spy.
Epstein?
Yeah, like Epstein kind of does that.
Well, he used kids, but yeah.
All right, let's keep go back to that tab, Chris, real fast. And guys, like the video, god damn it, because we're giving y'all a lot of sauce here. So scroll down a bit.
Down.
Okay, so you want to talk about this real quick?
Oh yeah, so that graphic I made is sort of the leadership of those 200. You have Ite Simon out of Irving, Texas, who got a $50,000 bond, by the way. There's Michael Kamanovic, who also out of Irving, also got a $50,000 bond, and he got it from the former Israeli vice consul.
Wow.
And Michael Gal, that's an interesting one, because he gets paid from an Amdocs employee, Ophir Bear. And
what's Amdocs?
We're getting ready to explain what Amdocs is. A telecommunications backdoor that Israel uses to spy on the United States, know who you're calling, when you're calling. And they were able to use this to tip off the Al-Qaeda terrorists. They kept changing their telecommunications processes 1 or 2 steps ahead of the authorities.
And that's important because if you guys, with these hijackers, guys, the FBI was looking into them and trying to go ahead and tap their phones. But every time they would go up on a phone, the number would be dropped or the guys moved or whatever. And the Bureau was always wondering, like, how are these guys a step ahead of us? Well, they had these guys involved where they would pretty much do something to get that, to throw them off the investigation.
Wow.
It also keeps them a step ahead themselves from the DEA, because these people had a massive ecstasy drug smuggling ring. $40 million on the West Coast, $40 million on the East Coast worth of these pills. Early 90s was Mali Central, right? It was when all this ecstasy was coming in from the Israelis. And what intelligence agencies do is, like, for example, everybody knows the U.S. aided ISIS in Syria, but you can't admit that, or the Contras in Nicaragua, but you can't admit that. So you can't go to Congress and say, hey, give me $1 billion to aid terrorists. And they're not going to do that. But if you have an off-the-books source of revenue, like narcotics trade, whether it's ecstasy or heroin or whatever, now you have a black budget for black ops. And so with black budgets, you can do black operations. And you don't have Congress doesn't want to know. They're like plausible deniability, just like Oliver North explained during the Iran-Contra affair with Reagan and Bush Sr. They don't want to know. So, a lot of these, it's also a way of explaining, well, how, like the Joker said, how does he get these wonderful toys, right? Well, how does ISIS have tow missiles and all this gear? Oh, they must be buying it on the black market because of their narcotics trafficking. So you are the narcotics trafficking.
So just so the audience understands kind of what you're saying there. So guys, I don't know if y'all know this, but like if you look at Mossad, CIA, and you try to find out what their yearly budget is, it's classified. Think about that. Why is it classified? The reason why it's classified, guys, is if you want to do black ops, like Ryan is saying, you need to go ahead and get black money, right? Because if you take government funds to do these operations, well, they can trace back that money because it's taxpayer dollars. But if you're involved in some illegal activities such as drug trafficking, etc., which isn't a secret, the CIA has been involved in drug trafficking for decades. That's a way for the U.S. government to collect funds in a manner that isn't traceable.
And gun running too. Illegal weapons trades is another big one.
Funds illegally through black ops, and then they take that money and then do black operations where they're assassinating people, committing espionage against maybe an ally, etc. So number one, the money's not traceable, and then number two, there's plausible deniability because only a few members of the U.S. government even know that we're involved in this stuff, which just came out later on in declassified documents that the government was involved in a bunch of shit.
Is that like JFK assassination?
Somewhat. Somewhat.
The ecstasy trade was nabbed eventually. That's how I know the numbers of the 40 million on each side.
Yeah.
They will get busted, and the DEA would crack down on these.
So,
but
to spin
the association to 9/11 was just something you were not allowed to get near. They even tell you, the FBI, that pick a 3-letter network, they said to even suggest Israeli involvement was considered career suicide.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Would it be fair to say that the reason why these art students were so hell-bent on infiltrating the DEA in particular is because they wanted to make sure that the DEA wasn't involved in stopping their ecstasy trade, which they were using, right, to collect money to do a black ops for Israeli intelligence?
Yep. And first they were doing it for their own ecstasy trade for whatever black ops Israel does all over the world. And instead of creating a brand new cell to follow around Al-Qaeda, because they had a cell in Hamburg following them around, and apparently Al-Jarrah was a mole, so they had a guy, an informant inside the network. But they're just going to use the cells that are already there and just expand their operations. So then they bring in the moving companies, Perfect Front, as we explained already. And they did warn the United States, like, hey, but they did it in a very vague way that didn't mean anything. Like, oh, I think there will be a terrorist attack soon. It didn't mention it. However, there were other warnings from other informants from other nations that the FBI ignored. We're going to get to that near the end here.
All right.
Damn. So you're telling me my neighborhood Jew could be a spy?
Well, anybody could be a spy. Listen, this has nothing to do with ethnicity or religion or anything. Let's make that real clear. Like, obviously, yeah, Israel considers itself a Jewish state. I always explain it like this. It's like, yes, lots of Nazis were white. Why wouldn't they be? They'd be against their own interests otherwise, right? And a lot of Zionists are Jews, of course.
Yeah.
But the majority of Jews are not Zionist.
Yeah. Okay, let's go. So here you are naming these different guys that were part of the art ring, and then scroll down. Keep going down. You want us to run this clip over here too?
M-Docs?
Yeah.
Okay.
We reported on the approximately 60 Israelis who had been detained in connection with the September 11th terrorism investigation. Carl Cameron reported that U.S. investigators suspect that some of these Israelis were spying on Arabs in this country and may have turned up information on the planned terrorist attacks back in September that was not passed on. Tonight, in the second of 4 reports on spying by Israelis in the U.S., we learn about an Israeli-based private communications company for whom a half dozen of those 60 detained suspects worked. American investigators fear information generated by this firm may have fallen into the wrong hands and had the effect of impeding the September 11th terror inquiry. Here's Carl Cameron's second report.
Fox News has learned that some American terrorism investigators fear certain suspects in the September 11th attacks may have managed to stay ahead of them by knowing who and when investigators are calling on the telephone. How? By obtaining and analyzing data that's generated every time someone in the U.S. makes a phone call.
What city and state, please?
Here's how the system works. Most directory assistance calls and virtually all call records and billing in the U.S. are done for the phone companies by Amdocs Limited, an Israeli-based private telecommunications company. Amdocs has contracts with the 25 biggest phone companies in America and more worldwide. The White House and other secure government phone lines are protected, but it is virtually impossible to make a call on normal phones without generating an Amdocs record of it. In recent years, the FBI and other government agencies have investigated Amdocs more than once. The firm has repeatedly and adamantly denied any security breaches or wrongdoing. But sources tell Fox News that in 1999, the super-secret National Security Agency, headquartered in Northern Maryland, issued what's called a top-secret Sensitive Compartmentalized Information Report, TSSCI, warning that records of calls in the United States were getting into foreign hands, in Israel in particular. Investigators do not believe calls are being listened to, but the data about who's calling whom and when is plenty valuable in itself. An internal Amdocs memo to senior company executives suggests just how Amdocs generated call records could be used. Quote, widespread data mining techniques and algorithms, combining both the properties of the customer, like credit rating, and properties of the specific behavior such as whom the customers are calling. The Amdocs memo says the system should be used to prevent phone fraud, but U.S. counterintelligence analysts say it could also be used to spy through the phone system. Fox News has learned that the NSA has held numerous classified conferences to warn the FBI and CIA how Amdocs records could be used. At one NSA briefing, a diagram by the Argonne National Lab was used to show that if the phone records are not secure, major security breaches are possible. Another briefing document said, quote, it has become increasingly apparent that systems and networks are vulnerable. Such crimes always involve unauthorized persons or persons who exceed their authorization, acting on exploitable vulnerabilities. Those vulnerabilities are growing because, according to another briefing, the U.S. relies too much on foreign companies like Amdocs for high-tech equipment and software. Quote, many factors have led to increased dependence on code developed overseas. We buy rather than train or develop solutions.
Wow. Wait, so where's Amdocs now?
Are they still around, Ryan, or Amdocs?
Yeah.
Wow.
They're still here?
When you mentioned Converse InfoSeek, Converse was spying on my computer.
Wow.
Wait, what?
So we're talking. So Amdocs, you got a foreignly owned company is collecting information on U.S. domestic calls and sharing that information back with the home country.
No way, bro. There's nobody.
That's fucking crazy.
There's no business?
Yeah.
No way,
It's
bro.
fucking crazy. All right.
50% owned by the Israeli state. So is Zim Shipping that
pull that up, Chris.
moved out of the towers.
Okay, so and it's funny how you can't find these clips on Fox News anymore, guys. They pulled all this shit dealing with students.
Yeah.
So
look there. So Michael Gall, who I showed above, right?
Mm-hmm.
He held on to a $10,000 cash bond. The bond was placed by Ophir Bear. Bear was petitioned to work by the U.S. from Amdocs. And as you saw in the report, 30 of the people of the 60 core that they arrested were Amdocs employees.
Wow.
Amdocs, an Israeli communications software company based in the U.S. Right. So this is in the Shea Memorandum. That's number 43 and 42, right? This is the kind of things I dig up. I've been telling on the mountain about this for 20 years. And I feel like this is a real catharsis for me because Fresh and Fit is the biggest platform that'll let me say this kind of stuff. Y'all have a nutsack status for that because this does get people canceled telling the truth nowadays, unfortunately. Yeah. But you know, I feel a great sense of relief because I feel like I've been screaming at the wall for 2 decades and dealing with 9/11 kooks and harassment and all that. And finally, a sizable audience can see this information.
Yeah, and you guys are like, we're getting into it and giving y'all the real backstory of what's going on here with 9/11. Like, I didn't even know about this Amdocs link and with the students.
Quick side note.
Oh, you just wait.
I Google Amdocs and it comes up in 2009. The South African State Security Agency suspected Amdocs was being used by the Mossad to spy on South African citizens by tapping mobile phones to gather information.
Wow.
They're still in business, bro.
Yeah, it's
That's
still a business.
crazy.
Yo,
they'll be fresh.
Yo, man, shout out to Fresh Find that. Let's keep going here. So, and it's no wonder.
Well, you do know about the South African deal from NUMEC. Watch that. That'll piss you off.
Damn.
All right. So this is, I think, another part of this Fox series, which, again, you can't find this anywhere, guys, for obvious reasons.
It's career suicide.
Yeah, I just clipped up the juicy parts, too.
Yep. Let's go ahead.
Fox News has documents of a 1997 drug trafficking case in Los Angeles in which telephone information, the types that Amdocs collects, was used to, quote, completely compromise the communications of the FBI, the Secret Service, the DEA, and the LAPD. And we'll have that and a lot more in the days ahead, Brett.
Israeli-based company called Amdocs that generates the computerized records and billing data for nearly every phone call made in America. As Carl Cameron reported, U.S. investigators digging into the 9/11 terrorist attacks fear that suspects may have been tipped off to what they were doing by information leaking out of Amdocs. In tonight's report, we learned that the concern about phone security extends to another company founded in Israel that provides the technology that the U.S. government uses for electronic eavesdropping. Here is Carl Cameron's third report.
And guys, the reason why this is so important, right, and we're harping on the Amdocs and the phones is because the FBI and other law enforcement agencies were tracking these terrorists prior to 9/11, but every time they tried to get up on their phone, they couldn't do it because the terrorists would drop the line. How the fuck did they know that how did the terrorists know that the FBI was onto them and they would drop the phone number or move on to another number? It's because Israeli intelligence had American phone companies compromised because they were collecting all the information. So they can go ahead and say, hey, drop that fucking number, drop that number. They drop it, and then the FBI couldn't go ahead and intercept them and figure out what the fuck was going on. So
they did this before in LA. He's talking about a prior case where they shut down all these three-letter networks for a giant, for Jewish organized crime, basically.
So that's how the terrorists were able to avoid getting their phones detected by the FBI. They're using the phones that were run by an Israeli telephone company, so they were able to go ahead and allow these guys to know, hey, drop that phone, etc.
Now I'm thinking, if Amdocs can do that to an outer, like, country or state, what about AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon?
Verizon.
They could take your information like that. And
yeah, and I mean, granted, this was back in the 90s and early 2000s when, you know, everyone was using more home phones. I don't know if it's still the same with like cell phones, but compromised to the same level. But this
go check out the members of the board of directors for Verizon, and then go look at the BOD of Boeing and Lockheed.
Damn,
all them
because it's just musical chairs.
Yeah,
I got some homework to do.
Okay, all right, let's keep running that Fox clip. This is interesting shit, man.
Yeah, it is.
The company is Comverse Infosys, a subsidiary of an Israeli-run private telecommunications firm with offices throughout the U.S. It provides wiretapping equipment for law enforcement. Here's how wiretapping works in the U.S. Every time you make a call, it passes through the nation's elaborate network of switchers and routers run by the phone companies. Custom computers and software made by companies like Comverse are tied into that network to intercept, record, and store the wiretapped calls, and at the same time transmit them to investigators. The manufacturers have continuing access to the computers so they can service them and keep them free of glitches. This process was authorized by the 1994 Communications Assistance for Law Enforcement Act, or CALEA. Senior government officials have now told Fox News that while CALEA made wiretapping easier, it has led to a system that is seriously vulnerable to compromise and may have undermined the whole wiretapping system. Indeed, Fox News has learned that Attorney General John Ashcroft and FBI Director Robert Mueller were both warned October 18th in a hand-delivered letter from 15 local, state, and federal law enforcement officials who complained that, quote, law enforcement's current electronic surveillance capabilities are less effective today than they were at the time CALEA was enacted. Comverse insists the equipment it installs is secure, but the complaint about this system is that the wiretap computer programs made by Comverse have in effect a back door through which wiretaps themselves can be intercepted by unauthorized parties. Adding to the suspicions is the fact that in Israel, Comverse works closely with the Israeli government and under special programs gets reimbursed for up to 50% of its research and development costs by the Israeli Ministry of Industry and Trade.
Wow.
But investigators within the DEA, INS, and FBI have all told Fox News that to pursue or even suggest Israeli spying through Comverse is considered career suicide.
Wow.
And sources say that while various FBI inquiries into Comverse have been conducted over the years, they've been halted before the actual equipment has ever been thoroughly tested for leaks.
All right.
Whoa.
Now, let's extrapolate on this. Yes, it's career suicide to suggest converse emphasis, using the wiretaps to spy. Why? Obviously, yeah, Israel has blackmail rings and they have a lot of, there's AIPAC and a giant lobby, all that. But we're talking about individual cops, FBI agents and stuff do not want to talk about this because their higher ups would fire them. Now think about, well, why are they scared? Because if you can wiretap people about terrorist activities, you can wiretap somebody about whatever.
Anything.
Right? You having a marital affair, you doing this, you doing that. They got every phone call you ever did. And they will let you know.
Bam.
Oh, and by the way, they mentioned, oh, don't worry, the White House phone is secure. No, it's not, because Israel put stingrays around and got caught, by the way, in 2017, spying on Trump's personal phone. They put this stingrays up, which could hijack the phone and listen in to calls even in the White House. Got busted, and there was no consequence for it. It was, I caught you. Yeah. There's not going to be a consequence because they're like, yeah, shut up or else, because they already have so much dirt on everybody.
Wow.
They're running a townhouse scam there. Remember the DC Madame? Well, actually, that's another can of worms. But like,
I think it's a can of worms.
Have me back on to talk about that one day.
Focus on 9/11. So
because there's a huge honey trap ring in DC. Man.
So we're compromised from the inside from Israel, and we can't do anything about it, because if we do, hey, man.
Well, especially back then when they relied on landlines so heavily.
But I would argue cell phones are even easier because everything's global network, and then that's crazy, bro.
What else do we got here? To pull this up, Chris.
Damn.
Okay.
Where do you want?
Your phone can listen to you when you're not even on it.
Do you want this one right here, Ryan?
So let's go. I think I wrote something between those two.
YMLE's phone case.
They already did,
phone
bro.
calls.
It's only it's 52 seconds. The one with it's a picture of a paper.
Let's go ahead and run it.
A 1999 FCC document indicates several government agencies expressed deep concerns that too many unauthorized, non-law enforcement personnel can access the wiretap system. And the FBI's own nondescript office in Chantilly, Virginia, that actually oversees the Kalia wiretapping program, is among the most agitated about the threat. But there is a bitter turf war internally at FBI. It is the FBI's office in Quantico, Virginia, that has jurisdiction over awarding contracts and buying intercept equipment. And for years, they've thrown much of the business to Comverse. A handful of former U.S. law enforcement officials involved in awarding Comverse government contracts over the years now work for the company. Numerous sources say some of those individuals were asked to leave government service under what knowledgeable sources call troublesome circumstances that remain under administrative review within the Justice Department.
Wow.
Right.
Man.
So you see, all they have to do, Jeff Gates talks about this. A lot of these organizations have a bottleneck, and all you have to do is get that bottleneck. So if you got this Quantico station that's in charge of divvying out the contracts to whoever else, that's all you need. You don't have to infiltrate everyone else.
Yeah.
Because they're deciding what equipment you get.
Bam. Let's pull that back up, Chris, real fast. Okay, so you got here, 9/11 terrorists were able to stay 2 steps ahead of law enforcement. Israeli organized crime had then and has always had covert state support. It is a method of plausible deniability for the state of Israel. In reality, Jewish organized crime is just an extension of the state of Israel. They took a ring that was already in place, embedded in the U.S., spying on agencies to protect Israeli crime and give it the task of spying on and protecting al-Qaeda while they were in the U.S. Art students spied on the U.S. and protected the terrorists. Moving companies spied on terrorists and even gave them logistical support. And we know this for a fact because the moving company was involved in moving some of the terrorists throughout the United States to stage for certain portions of the attack during the plot. We know this from Mohammed Atta living in Hollywood, Florida at the time, and then utilizing the urban moving transport systems, or one of those moving companies that Israeli intelligence.
Yeah, Al Omari with Classic International Movers.
Yep.
I have to move like 16 times, but they're always living next door. They were living next door to Atta, and he had a post office box at the end of the street, and they were monitoring that too.
Mm-hmm.
Christopher Ketchum wrote about that in Counterpunch. You know, a guy, he's passed away. His name was Justin Raimondo. He used to be the chief editor of antiwar.com. Wrote a book called Terror Enigma of the Israeli involvement in 9/11. And, you know, he got into a lot of this as well. Mostly just questions. What's this? What's that? You know, because we didn't have the FOIAs yet.
So the Israelis were spying on the terrorists, not to join them, but just to like watch them do what they got to do
to make sure they were successful.
Protect them from law enforcement.
That's how the terrorists were able to stay ahead and keep their phones from getting tapped.
That's scary.
When they got wind of this plot by Al Qaeda, they thought, yes, that'll get America against all our enemies. And they had already worked out how they were going to steer it into a war with Iraq, right? They had already planned the anthrax attack. They said, we're going to associate this with Saddam. They cooked up this lie about senior Iraqi officials meeting in Prague with Mohammed Atta and giving him anthrax. And then somebody sent anthrax to Patrick Leahy, who had the Leahy Amendment, which forbid military aid to Israel, as well as Tom Daschle, who opposed the Patriot Act. Like, we're about to go through the anthrax thing, but the Israelis figured this is awesome, and we'll associate it to Iraq. The Americans, when this happens, they're going to blow the shit out of somebody. Basically, right? And we're going to put that somebody on Saddam. Basically, Saddam was helping Palestinians.
They knew Al Qaeda was plotting an attack against the United States. Instead of stepping in and stopping it, they pretty much let it go through.
They enabled it.
They fostered it. Yeah.
They enabled it. So we really did get attacked by terrorists. It's just that Israeli intelligence knew about it before us and helped facilitate it so that it would become successful, because they knew that if we were attacked, we would do their heavy lifting for them by going into the Middle East and toppling all their rivals. Because Israel doesn't have the military capacity to go after Saddam, but the U.S. does. Let's have the United States do our dirty work for us. That's why they were.
I think the CIA often outsources things to the Israelis, especially when it comes to spying on Arab terrorists, because they don't have the linguistics. Like, they don't have enough Arab speakers. They can't embed. So they rely on the Israel to do this on their behalf. And the Israelis take advantage of that and just do it for what they want.
Yeah, because Israel doesn't have the capacity to go to war with a lot of these Arab states that hate them. So they have to use the United States to fight the proxy wars for them a lot of the times, because we have the resources that can topple governments. Iraq was one of the biggest enemies of Israel and one of their biggest obstacles to being able to secure their security in the Middle East. So they needed Saddam gone.
The Ba'athist party under Saddam Hussein was preaching pan-Arabism and was a threat to Israel's hegemony in the Middle East, both for the economy and military.
So basically, we're their shield for their operations.
Absolutely.
Until they just...
We're their hammer, too.
We're their hammer, too. Yeah.
Damn.
Okay, so do you want to go into the anthrax, Ryan, or did you want to cover the art student?
Well, let's finish the art student thing, because there's just 21 seconds here and then one more. Because this shows a prior case where they did it in L.A.
All right.
And what troubles investigators most, particularly in New York in the counterterrorism investigation of the World Trade Center attack, is that on a number of cases, suspects that they had sought to wiretap and surveil immediately changed their telecommunications processes. They started acting much differently as soon as those supposedly secret wiretaps went into place.
Bam. All right, let's run the next
clip. Crazy. Come on. Yeah.
Hit play.
Los Angeles, 1997. A major local, state, and federal drug investigation sours. The suspects? Israeli organized crime, with operations in New York, Miami, Las Vegas, Canada, Israel, and Egypt. The allegations? Cocaine and ecstasy trafficking, and sophisticated white-collar credit card and computer fraud. The problem? According to classified law enforcement documents obtained by Fox News, the bad guys had the cops' beepers, cell phones, even home phones under surveillance. Some who did get caught admitted to having hundreds of numbers and using them to avoid arrest. Quote, this compromised law enforcement communications between LAPD detectives and other assigned law enforcement officers working various aspects of the case. The organization discovered communications between Organized Crime Intelligence Division detectives, the FBI, and the Secret Service. Shock spread from the DEA to the FBI in Washington and then the CIA. An investigation of the problem, according to law enforcement documents, concluded, quote, The organization has apparent extensive access to database systems to identify pertinent personal and biographical information.
Wow.
When investigators tried to find out where the information might have come from, they looked at Amdocs, a publicly traded firm based in Israel. Amdocs generates billing data for virtually every call in America, and they do credit checks. The company denies any leaks, but investigators still fear that the firm's data is getting into the wrong hands. When investigators checked their own wiretapping system for leaks, they grew concerned about potential vulnerabilities in the computers that intercept, record, and store the wiretapped calls. A main contractor is Comverse Infosys, which works closely with the Israeli government and under a special grant program is reimbursed for up to 50% of its research and development costs by Israel's Ministry of Industry and Trade. Asked this week about another sprawling investigation and the detention of 60 Israelis since September 11th, the Bush administration treated the questions like hot potatoes.
I would just refer you to Department of Justice with it. I'm not familiar with the report.
I'm aware that some Israeli citizens have been detained. With respect to why they are being detained and the other aspects of your question, whether it's because they are in intelligence services or what they were doing, I will defer to the Department of Justice and the FBI to answer that.
Beyond the 60 apprehended or detained and many deported since September 11th, another group of 140 Israeli individuals have been arrested and detained in this year in what government documents describe as, quote, an organized intelligence gathering operation designed to, quote, penetrate government facilities. Most of those individuals said they had served in the Israeli military, which is compulsory there, but they also had, most of them, intelligence expertise and either worked for Amdocs or other companies in Israel that specialize in wiretapping. Earlier this week, the Israeli embassy here in Washington denied any spying against or in the United States. Tony?
Wow.
Carl, we've
So,
heard the
hold
comments
on.
from Ari.
Let me get this straight. You got U.S. law enforcement investigating Israeli individuals involved in drug smuggling, etc. They will start wiretapping phones. However, to wiretap a phone, you have to utilize Israeli-owned software to do so. Israeli government finds out, lets their people know back here in the States, hey, they're onto you guys. Better fucking drop these phones. Next thing you know, these guys are dropping phones like fucking hot potatoes. The Israeli government's able to intercept phones of the FBI agents and the law enforcement conducting the investigation. So they're always 1 to 2 steps ahead. And they're figuring out, why are these guys dropping phones as we're starting to get on their trail?
And it's to sell cocaine and ecstasy and engage in white collar crime. And why are you protecting that?
They need it
because of the black budget, black op thing that I said before.
Isn't it amazing, guys, that if we talked about this on YouTube, we would probably get canceled?
Oh, you would get canceled. You would get blanket banned just for having me say anything.
Guys, this is why we had to go to Rumble.
You have look. You're probably gonna be on Rumble in the future because you will get banned eventually. I hope not. I hope I'm wrong.
Here's the scary part. Look, this is the other thing too, Ryan. These clips come from Fox News. Tell me why this story was buried. Tell me why they buried this story of the guys getting caught on the George Washington Bridge with explosives. None of this, guys, is in the 9/11 Commission report, by the way. None of this stuff that we're talking about, whether it was Israeli intelligence running the phone companies, terrorists dropping phones, drug traffickers that had ties to Israeli organized crime dropping phones. None of this stuff is anywhere in the 9/11 Commission report. Nothing.
And you know what? The lower brass is constantly complaining about it. But the special agents in charge or whoever, but the bottleneck, right? They said, we're not looking into this.
Are trying to do their job, but they can't because you got the bureaucracy of the guys at the top saying, hey, you're getting a little too hot to the close to the source. Forget this shit. Don't worry about these guys.
But you know what has me kind of like worried though?
What?
Our cell phones, bro. If that was back then, how high tech that was, imagine our cell phones right now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just imagine how many cell phones there are now. Like, unless you get your head really above the water, you're unnoticeable because it's just overwhelming amounts of data. And most of it's just useless. People look at what he's looking at on TikTok or who cares, you know.
Ryan, here's the other thing too. No one talks about these students and the phone issues, etc. No one talks about this when they talk about 9/11. They're more concerned with fucking, explosives and all this other shit versus like, okay, let's not worry about, how the building went down. Let's figure out who took the fucking buildings down. And y'all see now that you got moving companies, you got art.
Well, they had truck bombs. I mean, they found them. It's not a mystery. I don't know why They act like this is some puzzle we have to figure out. That's been resolved.
Yeah.
Right. That's known. That's what happened. They hit it with airplane. 3 things. They hit it with airplanes. There were truck bombs, and somebody had gone in and sabotaged the fire prevention systems to maximize the damage by fire before the event.
Oh shit! Yeah, you guys, that third part.
Just put a pin in that because we're gonna get there. We're gonna get
Someone
there.
sabotaged the sprinkler system at WTC, the World Trade Center. We're going to talk about that here in a second, so keep that in mind. All right. So, did you want to move on to Anthrax now?
I think there's one more clip on Amdocs, right?
Okay.
No.
Go ahead.
Was that it?
Yeah, that was it.
That was it. That's what. Yeah.
All right. So, well, I have some documents below about Pierre Segalovitz, and these men were specialized in demolition, and he acknowledged that I could blow up buildings, bridges, cars, anything else he needed to. Right. And he was aware of Israel's organized crime involvement in drug smuggling and weapons smuggling. Now, I found out that he had a partner and a brother. His name was George Segalovitz, who also lived in Tarmac, Florida, and the brother had a front company, and then one of their partners, Shmuel Sagiv, was a bodyguard for the highest ranking Israeli army general, and he too was a demolitions expert.
All these coincidences, man. Wow.
Yo, I see why you moved away from America, bro.
Yeah.
Man. People are like, where'd you go to Japan?
And guys, this isn't us just talking shit. These are official documents we're showing y'all. Like, there's internal memos written by the DEA on these art
Put
students.
his address on the screen there.
Yeah. So
where he's from. Entered in New York. That one did.
Okay. That one did.
All right.
A lot of them come through South America and then go to Florida.
Okay, so now we're going to get into the Anthrax portion. Or did you want to talk about the Tennessee cell first, Ryan?
Anthrax first. Because are you guys good on time? Because I don't want to make you stay until midnight. But
yeah, Chris, how much more time do we got before the girls get here?
About 30 minutes.
About 30 minutes? You think we can wrap up the Anthrax in 30 minutes?
No. That's a beast. I think we should talk about Tennessee then, because I have so much to say about Anthrax.
Okay. So remember, guys, how I told you that there were, to keep it nice and simple for the audience, you have 3 different cells of Israeli interference when it comes to the 9/11 plot. You got the guys with the urban moving systems vans and White Glove, etc. Those 5 moving van companies we talked about earlier, right? Which are all pretty much run by the same guys from Israel that have ties to intelligence. Then you got the DEA art students that we just talked about, and also the phone tapping situation.
Yep.
Now we're going to get into the
I got the perfect thing, Myron. If you have 30 minutes, I have a 23-minute thing it'll be the Mandela effect.
Okay.
And so we can do Tennessee and Anthrax and 9/11 Commission like next time, but I want you guys to see this because that September 11th was almost a lot bigger than what it was, because there was another couple of planes that they attempted to hijack that they couldn't because they grounded all the planes on September 11th. But those people went and bought tickets again and tried it again on September 13th, got arrested. No one seems to know this happened. No one seems to know any of their names or who they're involved with. So if you can go to FNF2, like Fresh and Fit 2, there should be a tab and it says NBC. It's got a guy like on a TV box.
Let's see.
I could send it to your Telegram too.
Hold on, I think he has it. Pull it up, Chris.
Yeah.
All right, where?
I want an Anthrax.
Yeah, the
I
Anthrax.
can't do Anthrax in 30 minutes though. It's
I know. Next time.
Yeah.
Which tab is it there, Ryan?
I will. It says FNF2. Here, I'll send it to your Telegram.
Okay. All right, this will pull
That
it up.
one.
This is some crazy stuff, though, bro. I mean,
yeah.
This, what you're about to see, you're gonna be like, I didn't know that happened. Maybe you did, but I doubt it. Like, and most people watching know.
Wow, this is crazy shit. You found it, Chris? Or...
So then, when you know,
Chris pulling up,
what do you do with this info?
You just go to, if you go to ancreport.com and then it's just /FNF2. That's where it is. But well, I made movies with this info and got myself canceled on everything and got my bank canceled and got nothing good from it.
Damn, your bank?
Yeah, they canceled.
Oh
everything.
yeah.
So this is
and
it
my
right here.
PayPal
So
and all that.
what is this going to explain again, Ryan?
So this is 9/11 was everyone knows about the 4 hijacked planes.
Yeah.
But it might have been 5 or 6. And so there was Flight 23. This is eerie. They were on board. The terrorists were on the plane, on the runway. And then because of the events of 9/11, all flights got shut down and they had to get off. So they almost had Flight 23. They come back when planes are September 12th is still grounded. 13th, people can fly again. They tried to hijack one out of LaGuardia and one out of JFK Airport.
Okay, so
And
these are other
the circumstances around it are weird. So check this out and see if you remember this happening, anybody.
Okay,
because it got reported like once and then
never
memory
again.
hold. Yeah.
God damn it.
23, scheduled to depart for Los Angeles, was boarding. There was some kind of an altercation involving 3 men described by a port authority of New York and New Jersey
Pause real
police.
quick. So, guys, in part 3, we're going to cover the other attacks that they tried to do. In part 3, we're going to cover anthrax and then the Tennessee cell of Israeli intelligence. Okay, guys, on the next episode. But let's
and the 9/11 Commission conflicts of interest.
Bam, we'll cover that as well on the next one.
And how the FBI was tipped off by an Iranian informant and they didn't listen to him.
Okay. All right, let's run this though. The other
as
attacks.
Middle Eastern in appearance. Somehow, the source will not reveal the exact details. They attracted the suspicions of the gate staff boarding that flight. The staff had some kind of a verbal exchange and demanded that these 3 men leave the aircraft. They had already gotten on the plane. They're asked to leave the aircraft. They refused to get off. The airline, following its normal procedures, according to this police source, calls the police, which immediately dispatch an emergency service team. So now you have a squad of heavily armed officers that are coming toward the airplane. And when they get there, the men have vanished. The gate staff can't find them.
It matches with the type of flights, the transcontinental flights that were hijacked in the other 4 instances. Another disturbing fact, if indeed there was an altercation and these men felt they had a case to make and were being treated unfairly, you can't imagine they would have disappeared from the airport. They would have stayed around and pled their case with the police.
It is extraordinarily unusual to have an airline, after it has boarded passengers, be so suspicious that it's going to ask these customers to get off the airplane. We got a phone call from a law enforcement officer who was on vacation, was in the United Airlines terminal at the time. As soon as he approached, they walked out of the terminal and he looked over. He described them as Middle Eastern in both appearance and dress. Not sure what that means, but that was his description. He said when they left the terminal through the glass doors, he saw them meet a 3rd man, and they then left.
By 9:03 on Tuesday morning, September 11th, hijackers had flown 2 airliners into 2 of the tallest buildings in the world. Once United Airlines realizes the second plane is one of theirs, company dispatchers contact hundreds in their remaining fleet.
My attention was strictly on what's the security status of all the aircraft. So we instituted a procedure, which we still have today, for positive contact. Every 10 to 15 minutes, the dispatchers were talking to the crews to ascertain the cockpit was still secure, so we knew that we were in command of every airplane.
At Newark Airport, the pilot of United Flight 23 wasn't taking any chances. After speaking to company dispatchers, he keeps his transcontinental flight scheduled for LA on the ground. When the plane returns to the gate, it's reported that several unruly, allegedly Middle Eastern men rush from the plane, leaving their luggage behind. Inside the bags, officials find Al-Qaeda instruction sheets, but false IDs prevent investigators from ever locating the bag's true owners.
Probably have not.
And this happens on, you said September 12th or 13th, Ryan?
No, this is on 9/11 still.
Oh, same.
They'll come back on the 13th and try a second time.
Oh, shit. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. That Flight 23 almost went kaboom into the Sears Tower.
But weren't the cameras inside the airport? Can you catch them that way? Camera footage?
Yeah. How do you think they just disappeared off a plane when the security detail got there? Because they escorted them out of there.
Good job. Okay.
Okay. All right.
I heard about you.
They infiltrated the ramp crew too.
That's right.
plane that was only minutes from being in the air on 9/11, a plane that some believe could have become a fifth missile. Jay Korf rejoins us live now from the Pentagon with this story. Jay?
Also, we spoke with that flight's first officer, the co-pilot. We also spoke with an author who says that she uncovered a stunning revelation, that there were additional terrorists on that flight and on other planes on September 11th. It's information the FBI will not confirm.
Pause.
You won't find it in
that face they just showed. That's Mohammed Atta, by the way, guys, the lead hijacker. Just wanted y'all to see who that was.
There were additional terrorists on that flight and on other planes on September 11th. It's information the FBI will not confirm. You won't find it in the 9/11 Commission report. But the Brigadier General and a former pilot are talking.
I don't think many people know about those men on board United 23 or about the items that were found.
And they went running off the airplane, never to be seen again. So, who knows?
On September 11th, Brigadier General Carol Timmons of the Delaware Air National Guard was co-piloting United Flight 23, heading from JFK to Los Angeles. But while in line to take off, air traffic controllers closed the airport and she received a dire message.
Hijackings. We've had hijackings. Secure the cockpit, either land or get back to the terminal. So as we turn to taxi back, we can see the towers on fire. I can close my eyes and see it today. So it was horrendous. It's horrendous.
To add to her angst, she received a chilling call.
In the meantime, as we're taxiing back, flight attendant says, "Hey, I've got some very agitated men sitting in first class. They're very unhappy. Why aren't we taking off? Why aren't we taking off?"
But once at the gate, the men disappeared into the sea of people evacuating JFK.
There's the generally held belief that there were other planes out there.
Former commercial pilot Lynn Spencer wrote touching history, a minute-by-minute account of the air drama that unfolded on 9/11. She says high-ranking FAA officials and airport managers have confirmed to her that during a search of United Flight 23, box cutters and al-Qaeda documents were discovered in unclaimed bags.
It was believed by those who searched the plane and found these items that they were indeed hijackers on that flight.
Spencer says federal officials believe not just one, but several additional planes were carrying terrorists on September 11th. But since the FAA shut down U.S. airspace, those twisted minds never hit their targets.
I think we are all aware of how horrible September 11th was. Can we really imagine if another 8, 9, 10 planes had also...
That's the Bojinka plot.
Well, a possible significant breakthrough in the story of the attacks on Tuesday. A man who tried to use a fake pilot's identification to get past security at John F. Kennedy International Airport has been arrested, and 5 other people have been detained at city airports by the FBI and Joint Terrorist Task Force. The incident about this man who used a fake pilot's identification to get past security caused the 3 major New York airports to close again Thursday shortly after they'd opened. The airports remained closed as we went into the early hours of Friday. Now, a source quoted by the Associated Press as being, quote, knowledgeable of the workings of the airline industry said the man was arrested at Kennedy Airport. That man was checked in sometime between noon and 4 p.m. today. The man was trying to board American Airlines Flight 299 bound for San Jose, California. The man had been scheduled for an earlier flight on Tuesday bound for Los Angeles. Now, we reported this incident before this evening. But that flight, the one on Tuesday, which was due to take off around 9 o'clock in the morning, New York time, the flight was canceled after the terrorist attack began in the World Trade Center. Now, a subsequent strip search of this man is said to have found a pilot certificate from a Florida school.
The police commissioner of New York quoted this evening as saying he has no idea whether the man arrested or those detained were connected to the terrorist attacks on Tuesday.
There have been a number of people detained over the last 2 or 3 hours.
Guys, this is the NYPD commissioner, by the way, that had visited Israel, I think like a couple weeks before the 9/11 attacks, and this is him at the press conference after that first van was stopped on the George Washington Bridge. They asked Giuliani was like, I don't know what the fuck's going on, and then he gives a statement about it. And just so you guys know, also the reason why it's relevant that they found a pilot's license and the fact that the guy went to school in Florida at a flight school, that's important because the other hijackers had went to flight schools here in South Florida as well.
Vero Beach, Florida was the same flight school as the other ones.
Exactly. That's the connection.
Red flag.
Yep. Another red flag right there. All right.
The airports with possibly fictitious identification, one of which I understand was in fact arrested. He had identification indicating he was a pilot. He attempted to clear security and he was stopped. The identification he had was in fact false. I understand he has been arrested. There are other people that have been detained. They have not yet been arrested, and they're being spoken to by the authorities.
At LaGuardia Airport, there was a brief evacuation. 3 men were arrested, or I shouldn't say arrested, were taken into custody there to be detained and questioned when they showed up at the airport with baggage marked crew. Law enforcement sources tell ABC News that their story about being crew for an airline also did not check out.
Is that they moved in and arrested 4 men as they were boarding a flight from Kennedy Airport. Apparently, these men were on the FBI's watch list. And there is one report that they carried pilots' licenses and had some forged documents.
That people had been detained both at LaGuardia and JFK Airport.
It is shortly after 8 o'clock Eastern time, and the FBI now has positively identified all 18 of the suspected hijackers. Before this evening is out, we could have photographs of them. 7 people are in custody at 2 New York airports tonight. Reportedly, they produced pilot licenses which appear to be counterfeit.
U.S. investigators have arrested at least 8 people in connection with Tuesday's terrorist attacks. 2 separate groups of suspects were detained yesterday at New York's Kennedy and LaGuardia airports. Police at Kennedy Airport arrested a man trying to get past security with a fake pilot's ID. At least 4 others were detained. There are reports they were carrying knives and false documents. Shocked passengers watched as police raided their plane.
A whole slew of about 20 policemen came on, several in SWAT gear, others that were just, a Port Authority police with pistols, all guns out and blaring, but not. And we all were told to put our heads down. And they, meanwhile, were wrestling this guy in the back, and they dragged him off. And there were a couple people sitting right in front of me. They also asked them to come off. They handcuffed them and took them with them.
Another 5 people were held for questioning at LaGuardia Airport.
Indeed, that is true. The airport's open today, but the police were closely watching. One of those people arrested was at Kennedy Airport. He was carrying a fake pilot's ID. He was arrested and taken away for questioning. Also at Kennedy Airport, there were another 4 or 5 people who had either false documentation or were in the country illegally, who were also arrested and taken away for questioning. At New York's LaGuardia Airport, police detained at least 2 other men for questioning. After the spate of arrests and detentions, all New York area airports were closed again.
Late yesterday afternoon, arrest at least 8 people, reports as many as 10 at JFK and LaGuardia. There's a lot of information coming out. We're still trying to sift through all of it. A lot of this is in flux. There's so much news going on in so many different areas. Really hard to sort it all out and keep control over it. And they were unsure whether these people that were arrested were trying to flee the New York area or if they actually had plans to undertake another hijacking.
10 people are in custody. These 10 people, 9 men and 1 woman, attempted in 2 separate incidents today, one at 4 o'clock at JFK Airport, the other as late as 7:30 tonight at LaGuardia, to board national flights, one a United Airline flight with open full fare tickets. They were armed with knives, carrying false identification, pilot certificates, and certificates from the Flight Safety International Flying School in Vero Beach.
And these individuals that were caught, Ryan, were they all, what were their nationalities? Were they Saudi Arabians? Were they Middle East? Where were they from?
Well, the fact that they don't tell you lets you know.
Were they from that certain state that shall not be named?
No, more than likely they were somewhere in the Middle East. It doesn't have to be that state, but
okay.
It's odd that they aren't given details, names, photos, or anything. So either they tried to lean on these people and flip them, they gave us info on all the other hijackers who were dead, but some of them escaped, as you'll see, and some of them, were detained and arrested. But you just wait. You're going to be shocked at the conclusion here.
Okay, let's keep going.
Beach, Florida, where federal authorities have told us 3 of the suspects from Tuesday's horror took their flying lessons.
There are currently 10 individuals in custody who were picked up at Kennedy Airport and LaGuardia Airport this afternoon. There was an incident at Kennedy Airport at approximately 4:15 this afternoon when 4 men were detained trying to board a United Airlines flight to Los Angeles. They had open tickets to various destinations in the United States. They had multiple fake identifications. They had knives, and they had flight certificates from Flight Safety International in Vero Beach. The individuals had originally been booked on a flight to Los Angeles from New York on Tuesday morning. That flight did not take off because it was canceled right after the attacks on the World Trade Center. And following the detention of the 4 men at Kennedy Airport, a female was also detained who was acting, we are told by high sources in the government, in the state governments in New York State, was playing a supplementary role. And then between 7:30 and 8:15 this evening, 5 men were detained at LaGuardia Airport with the same MO, the same modus operandi as the incident at Kennedy Airport. Now, the reason I raise this again, aside from the obvious reasons that it is news that nobody we are aware of in the government has denied at the moment, nobody has come to us and said we're not telling the story, which is incorrect.
Much of what is dominating the night's news is what has happened at 2 New York airports this evening.
Latest information, as many as 10 people being held by the FBI in New York tonight for allegedly attempting to board, and in some cases actually boarding aircrafts with false identification, carrying weapons such as knives, indications that some of them had attended the Flight Safety International Training School in Vero Beach, the same school that helped train some of those who became as authorities suspect, the pilots who took over the controls of the planes on Tuesday. Federal authorities believe at this hour that the intention of one team at Kennedy Airport and another arrested later at 7:30 this evening at LaGuardia Airport with similar equipment and false identification, that their intention was to continue the pattern that started on Tuesday by attempting to hijack those airplanes. And because some of those picked up tonight apparently had training to fly commercial aircrafts, along with the 10 who were arrested, there were, we are told, 9 men and 1 woman. The woman was not someone who boarded the plane as part of the team of 4 and 5. She was arrested, according to authorities, in some kind of support role.
Terry, I gather that the administration has been reluctant to give any information on this story, but what can you tell us at this late hour?
That is putting it mildly, Ted. The White House in particular is being very, very careful with this story. One of the missions right now that the president has is try to reassure the country. This is obviously an unsettling story, and they are staying away from it. I do, however, have from one White House official the confirmation that the president is being continually updated on this situation, and he's aware of it.
Is the White House refusing to confirm or deny the story? Is the administration refusing to confirm or deny the story of those arrests that were made at JFK and LaGuardia? Or are you at least getting some off-the-record guidance?
Well, we are getting guidance, being told that the president is being continually updated and is aware of the situation. Most officials I reached, frankly, were not aware of it. They had not heard it until I told it to them. When they got back to me, I got a flat, we aren't touching that. But we did get from one official this word that the president has been made aware of this.
We are touching
Mr.
that.
Hunter, tell me what you saw, tell me what you experienced.
We were on at the gate for about 2 hours. We boarded about an hour late. It was a 4 o'clock flight. It was supposed to be the first flight on a regular scheduled basis for American to go out to LAX today. And we boarded about an hour late, and then we sat on the plane for about 2 hours, or maybe a bit more than that. And then near the end, the the captain came on, was trying to make, walking through the aisles, trying to make everybody calm down. He was talking to me and a few other passengers and was asked forcibly by the his first mate or his the other captain to go to the front of the plane.
The first officer.
Exactly. And at that point, he ultimately came back on the air and told everybody that we were going to go. And we were all very happy and feeling very good that we were going to be able to get home and see our families and stuff. But about 10 minutes later, the door was still open, which is unusual. And literally a few minutes after that, about 20 or more police officers, many in SWAT gear with large guns, all unholstered and looking down the aisles, screaming at everybody to go and hit the floor. And we all hit the floor. And meanwhile, there was a commotion going on behind me, about 4 or 5 rows behind me, where they were subduing a passenger. And he was definitely resisting and trying to fight off, but it was obviously worthless given how many policemen were on the airplane. And then 2 other passengers that were right in front of me were ultimately asked to go with authorities as well. They were taken to a galley, handcuffed, and then led off the plane from the front as well. So there was quite a bit of commotion, followed by dogs and looking for bombs and everything else before they would allow us to get off the plane.
I would like you just to give me a quick description of how you think the rest of the passengers reacted to all of this.
Very well. Everyone on the plane pretty much, was obviously shocked by the scene of the police rushing the plane and the screaming that was going on as the man was trying to resist arrest behind us. But everybody, listened to the situation. There was not a whole lot of crying or carrying on. Everybody was, reasonably calm. The woman that was sitting next to me had gone on the floor in pretty much a fetal position, and she was trying to stay as low. We were all getting as low to the ground as we could, just in case any shots were fired. And, it was somewhat unnerving, and we were shaking quite a bit. But the captain and the other, flight attendants came on board, that were on board, were very calming after the incident. And we were playing with the bomb dogs and things like that when the dogs were coming on board, and just trying to calm down.
One thing you cannot help wondering, based on this information about what federal authorities clearly now believe was 2 new attempts to hijack planes and have change-off pilots, is what were the next targets? There is no more World Trade Center. Was it the Empire State Building, the UN, the federal building where the FBI has left its quarters because they felt it was a security risk? And then the second question you have to wonder was,
Pause.
along with, was there a watch?
Little fun fact, guys. After the 9/11 attack, the FBI actually moved its office and they conducted the entire 9/11 investigation from a parking garage. Fun fact. Yeah. They did a whole
There was a bomb threat at the State Department too.
Yeah. So if you guys
It
want
wasn't real, but
go check out my Fed Reacts channel on 9/11. I talk about like how the FBI solved 9/11 from the official story. They actually ended up moving all their stuff and doing the entire investigation from a fucking from a parking garage. But yeah, let's keep going.
Wow.
Washington.
They searched the vans of the Israelis with the bomb sniffing dogs and the anti-bomb team at they converted a sports facility that sold basketballs and soccer balls and stuff into like this makeshift headquarters to check all these vans for bombs in the Meadowlands. Yep.
All right, let's keep rolling. We got another 4 minutes or so. So you said there's a surprise at the end here?
Yeah, there is. Now, the woman who wasn't with the rest of them on the plane,
yeah,
if she's one of them, then you can't pull on that thread because it would unravel the whole thing, wouldn't it?
So she was one of them boys, the one female that was caught with the 9 males?
Them girls.
Oh, I see. Okay. Let's keep going.
Going to be a White House this time, as the White House has already suggested they felt they were on a target list. What would have happened?
Pierre Thomas, who covers the Justice Department for us, is in the Washington Bureau. Pierre, do you want to add to this?
Yeah, Peter, exactly what one of my sources told me is that on Tuesday, 4 of these men showed up at JFK, attempted to board one of the flights, and were challenged at the ticket counter, according to my source. When they were challenged, they decided to leave.
Real quick, just so you guys know, 9/11 was on a Tuesday. Okay, I know some of you guys might be.
Yeah,
wondering,
he's talking about 9/11.
Why you might be wondering why does people keep saying Tuesday? Tuesday is 9/11, guys. Remember these
It was
news
Black
reports.
Tuesday. Yep.
It was when these news reports came out right when the attack happened. So that's why they're referring to it that way. As
Wait, what'd you say, Ryan?
So it's Thursday, September 13th, and he's saying on Tuesday, and everybody knew what happened on Tuesday. It was called Black Tuesday. Tuesday's 9/11.
Wait, because he's black?
Sure.
This guy.
And left very quickly. They left before the FBI could get there. Peter, we now have additional information on that material witness arrest warrant, which has been issued. We're being told by sources that the person who has been arrested has links to a relative of Osama bin Laden. There's no information that this person was involved in the attack, but because of that link to Osama bin Laden's relative and other links, they do feel that this person has highly relevant information. And they also say that they feel that he is a risk of fleeing the country.
Did they tell you where this material witness is at the moment?
Yes, he's being held in New York. The additional information we have is that he's one of the people detained at JFK yesterday, Peter.
Exactly. Thanks, Gary Thomas. I wanted to add that so that we can go to John Miller here. John, this is all part and parcel of these two incidents last night, one at Kennedy and one at LaGuardia Airport, which totally spooked the authorities here, which we reported for much of the evening, and then the FBI got kind of anxious about this morning.
Yeah, they dialed back on it this morning and released most of the suspects, but they've held on to this one individual. Today, at a press conference by the Port Authority police, they explained their rationale behind the raid and so on. And when they said they'd released all but one, they were pressed by reporters, why are you holding the one you're holding? And they were very circumspect, only saying, we have sufficient grounds to hold that person. And that apparently relates to what Pierre is talking about.
Do you know anything more about the basis on which they're holding him?
Well, this was what we were told was one of the things that set off big alarm bells, which is, they ran a lot of information through databases. And apparently the address he used up in Massachusetts is an address that was resided at by a Osama bin Laden brother who resides here in the United States. And of course, that raised everybody up, and they're trying to investigate beyond the address. Is there any personal connection?
Do we know that he had a fake ID when he tried to get on that aircraft last night? Or actually when he did get on the aircraft?
Yeah, and it's one of those things that is actually reversed. He had a fake ID that he presented to get on the aircraft, and then under questioning, he produced a pilot's license, but the name on the pilot's license was different. And he explained that the false ID he was using was a relative of his, but that the pilot's license was his real name. And it turns out he really is trained and really is a pilot. But the identity he used to get on the flight is not his name.
There have been 10 people, approximately 10 people arrested at the airports. At LaGuardia Airport, there have been 5 to 6 people arrested. And at JFK Airport, there have been 3 to 4 people arrested. And one of them is a woman. These people have been reported to carry knives and flying manuals and false IDs. And one man, at least one man, had tried to get on an airplane using a false ID of a pilot. Now, these people have been questioned by authority, and they are suspected of trying to carry out another hijack activity. When one of the New York reporters, local TV station reporters, interviewed an Israeli man stranded at JFK Airport waiting to go home to Israel, the young Israeli said on TV, now the Americans can finally feel what we have always felt like. And a man sitting next to me watching this TV, an American man said, well, if not for you, we wouldn't have to feel this way.
Wow. So someone.
But the thing is, as they said on ABC, they let 9 of the 10 go.
Yeah, why?
Yeah.
Yeah, why?
What the fuck? Oh, there you go.
One of them staying at the house of that because Osama brothers own many houses, but Osama bin Laden's brother, one of his brothers had a house, and this is where they stay
in Boston,
in Massachusetts. Yeah,
who's in Boston?
Oh, you're
Boston,
talking about
Massachusetts. Yep.
Yeah.
And they let them go. Why? They have knives, right? You're not supposed to have a knife on a plane.
Yeah.
Period. Right. What was going on?
Do we know who this woman is that they?
And here's, I have an idea. So I'm going to answer it, but like, think about this. They let him go. They made a big stink. And then you saw the FBI started really backtracking this morning. They didn't like us covering this, right? How many people, you've talked about 9/11, a lot of people know about Flight 23 or 133 or 299? Nothing.
Yeah,
Did you know they arrested more people in LaGuardia and JFK? There was almost, another attack on the 13th. They don't know that. They don't know there was a 5th plane on the 11th either. And they showed the guy putting into the police car. You can see his face.
Yeah.
The one they kept
At the end.
that was actually a pilot, but just used a relative's ID to get on the plane for some reason.
Yeah.
Which means he must have had some kind of record to hide his real ID. Otherwise, just get on with your ID. It doesn't matter, especially if you're on a suicide mission, right? So why did they let the rest of them go?
Damn.
Who is powerful enough for them to be associated to have them be released?
Well, yeah. I mean, is it verified that they were from that state?
Clinton's. Boston.
Oh, I don't think they're from that state. I think that state would use them. Like, that's their cannon fodder, right? They're expendable, but now they can use them on something else. They can't use them at all if they sit in jail.
But Ryan, what about Bill and Hillary?
Well, Bill was fond of taking Epstein planes to Rape Island. Separate thing, though. But, Bill and Hillary actually, well, not Hillary, but Bill tried to investigate Dennis Hastert for a criminal operation. He was the Speaker of the House, who ended up going to prison for paying hush money to rape victims. He is a homosexual wrestling coach, raped little boys, and would pay them each month to stay quiet. But he was involved with this nuclear smuggling operation, and Janet Reno went forward with it. And then Ashcroft came in with the Bush administration and squashed it. And Ashcroft and Mueller are also the ones that didn't want anything to do with the dry run, didn't want anything to do with the Saudi Arabians, because the Bush family is so tight with the Saudis. But what it looks like is, it's not like, oh, we're not trying to embarrass an ally. It's no. This is an operation, a jointly conducted operation with collusion. That's what's going on.
So, question at the end there, it said that there was an Israeli individual that said that now you know how our country feels. Who was that guy?
And
like
the next guy said, well, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have to feel this way. Like, immediately understood what's going on, right?
Yeah. But my question is, was this just like a random guy at the airport, or did he have something to do with these hijackings?
Yeah. Why did she say that? This Israeli guy said this. So they're tying it. They want to make you understand because couple days out on the 18th, the anthrax letters will get mailed, right? Which will say death to America, death to Israel. They want to associate Al-Qaeda as like America's enemies or Israel's enemies. Just like Savan said, oh, your problem's our problem. Palestinians are the problem, right? They want to use this event and the emotional clout and hate and fear of 9/11 to be like, yeah, us Israelis, we've been dealing with Islamic terrorism every day, Hamas rockets, whatever, not omitting the part that they bulldoze down their houses and occupy and all that, and like they start the story in the middle. So they want sympathy for the America to be like, yeah, you should probably squash all our enemies. And who's a state sponsor of terror and a really bad boogie guy and probably help the 9/11 hijackers? Saddam Hussein. And that's where the anthrax will come in.
Okay.
And of course they lied, but that's like, I guess, I mean, we got another show is tough because we have anthrax, we have Tennessee, we have 9/11 Commission, and I have the FBI informant stuff to go through. So,
okay.
Hey, man.
Yeah. So we're going to definitely cover the rest of the stuff on part 3.
Part 3.
It's a complicated topic, So,
yeah.
Bro, stay alive until
So
then.
today we covered a lot of ground. Today we covered the World Trade Center, the Saudi dry run, the money that was moved between the Saudi terrorists and the Saudi government and their links with the Bush administration.
Yeah.
We covered the art students. We covered the dancing Israelis. We covered the moving systems conspiracy with some of these moving company employees being tied to
Amdocs.
Yep. To Israeli intelligence. Then we covered Amdocs and their ability to compromise U.S. I guess phone intercept technology, wiretaps, impeding investigations, Israeli drug trafficking, and how they infiltrated the DEA to try to stop them from collecting their blackout money. So we covered a lot on this episode. On the next one, we're going to cover the third part of the Israeli cell, which is going to be the Tennessee guys. You guys better stay tuned for that one. That's going to be crazy.
That's the big one. Everyone's like, how they get in the towers. This is the answer.
This is going to answer how they got in the towers for y'all. And then we're going to cover anthrax, which is a whole other thing. Which obviously
that's how they tied it to a war in Iraq. So that's a big deal.
And then we're going to cover the FBI informant stuff, etc. But yeah,
and the 9/11 Commission's conflicts of interest, because the cover up of 9/11 is important too.
All right, Ryan. So let me read these rants.
Ryan,
real quick.
you better stay alive, bro.
Yeah, don't die, Ryan, on us.
Don't die on us, bro.
I'll plan on it. Yeah.
RNG goes support the remastering. Donate to givesendgo.com/911. Help ANC update and refresh the 5-hour epic that is Empire Unmasked. Absolutely, guys.
There you go.
Yeah.
Because you can't talk about 9/11 unless you're going to talk about them boys. But every other 9/11 person never talks about them boys. Lightweight baby goes medium-sized Mo. Bring back Big Mo so he can sit on Chris every time he got late. God damn it, he's late. God damn it. Also, F Fresh, did you smash? What?
Smash what?
I don't know. Boss Boy Bell goes finally made it to a live. Shout out Fresh Fit. Thank you so much.
Shout out to you.
P1 Dizzy goes get a copy of Ryan's 9/11 Anthrax timeline map. Yes, guys, go ahead and get it. We'll put the link below. Myron,
that anthrax map. We didn't talk about anthrax today, but we almost did. That's got the whole timeline. It's a great. It helps like finance and research if you get that too.
Bam. Jeeds goes, Myron, put your glasses on. It's a safe space tonight, boys. W. Dawson. So, okay, I appreciate that, my friend. Bro, Rumble is owned by one of them boys. Look it up. Shout out to the crew, Myron. I DM'd you about an app. That's not true, my friend.
That's not true.
That's not true, actually, at all.
And even if it was, that's like all of them. Come on.
Yeah, bro. So you get the people that we're talking about are a very small percentage. Okay, that are doing bullshit, and you can find people doing bullshit in any race, guys.
The same with the Saudis. We're not talking about all Saudis or Arabs or Muslims. We're talking about the ones involved in 9/11.
Yeah,
come on, y'all.
When I say every time, brother, I mean every single time. Hulk. Okay. David M. the Kid goes, Ryan, what are your thoughts on American Flight 587 that crashed in Queens, New York on November 12, 2001? Do you believe that was also a Belding?
I don't know the flight number off the top of my head, so I have to look up what that is.
Yeah, how many flights were there?
I remember there was one that crashed into Bank of America, but I thought that was in Florida, not New York.
Okay, yeah, he's saying one crashed in Queens, November 12, 2001. I didn't hear about that. DeAndre goes, Ryan, how the fuck do you get all these news clips? Hey, bro, he recorded them all back then on VHS tapes.
That's right. I had I lived on the girls' dormitory. And so I had all the girls on multiple TVs taping different channels.
And I'm glad you did, bro, because you can't find any of this stuff anywhere anymore on Fox News for obvious reasons. I mean, damn, Fox did a
or ABC.
Yeah,
they did a pretty
CBS
good
too. They reported the van bombs. Like, yeah, it's and even on the internet, they're hard to find. Like, what you can find them now because I put them on and people copied it from me. But like, there was a period where some of the reason the quality's so low is because that's what I had. That's why I know someone copied it from me because I'm like, well, that looks like shit. That's me.
Yeah. Sean goes, thanks for doing this. Israel is a bad actor that engages with their professes allies as one would expect to engage an open enemy. China didn't pimp our kids out to crooked politicians. Israel did.
Yeah,
man. I mean, all I got to say is, guys, look up the AIPAC website. It says they're right there on their own website. 98% of our candidates win their general elections. And AIPAC is one of the biggest lobby.
Not one of. It is the biggest lobby.
Biggest lobby? Yeah. You know, and AIPAC stands for
the American Israeli Political Action Committee is what I always say, but it's actually a Policy and Affairs Committee.
Yeah. So it basically, you know, if you back Israel, they back you, and then they fund a lot of politicians to win.
They bundle. They got caught. There's there's other exposés on. They do this in Britain and the United States where they'll bundle credit cards together. So to get around campaign finance laws, they'll prepay credit cards and give them to Willings A&M and say, donate this to this person. Right. So they can just flood. Everybody hits the $3,000 limit or whatever, but it's actually all being paid for by the Israelis. They just divvy out the cards to their little minions in the group and say, you, we're all going to donate to this person. So
and
it's illegal for someone to just donate $1 million, but it's not illegal to get a bunch of people to donate $3,000, even if it's not really their money.
Wow. And just so you guys know, AIPAC stands for American Israel Public Affairs Committee. Okay.
Policy and Affairs Committee.
Yeah. biggest one in the United States. Why would bin Laden carry out 9/11 if it benefited those he hated the most, the U.S., Israel, and Saudi Arabia?
Well, bin Laden didn't know that they were going to associate Iraq to September 11th and then go invade them.
He also didn't know that Israeli intelligence compromised his Al-Qaeda hijackers. He didn't know
Bush
that.
did remove troops from the Holy Land, which was one of his demands. Right after he quietly did that after 9/11, and Bush did invade Iraq, which is what Israel wanted. So Saudi Arabia got something they wanted. Israel got something they wanted.
Yep. So cool, guys. We're gonna be back with Ryan next week to cover part 3 of this 9/11 thing. We covered a lot of ground here through our Plus podcast. So we're gonna go ahead and cover the rest of it on the next episode. Ryan, I'll give you the last word, man.
Shout out to Roger Waters, by the way. I got the Pink Floyd on today. Yeah, I mean, this is a complicated topic. Appreciate you trudging through 3 hours. We use a lot of clips, but it's like because I made a movie about all of this, and that's why
Empire Unmasked.
I don't have to repeat myself over and over. It's called the Empire Unmasked, and we are trying to redo it. If we had gotten to the anthrax, we already upgraded some of that, so you can see the before and after from little segments. You know, this movie needs to be out, but it needs to be new Met quality, like crisp and readable and good transitions. I didn't know how to make a movie when I made this movie. I know how to do research very well, but I'm not a production person. But I can hire people who are. So that's what we're doing on Give, Sing, Go, which is the only one I'm allowed to use because it's direct to bank.
Yeah.
And it's the one Kyle Rittenhouse used. I can't use GoFundMe. I can't use Kickstarter or any of that. They've all banned me for talking about this.
Wow.
So it's such a canard because what they'll say is, oh, you criticize Israel, you must be anti-Semitic. Please. It's like, oh, you criticize North Korea, you hate Koreans. So stupid.
Yeah, I mean, Saudi Arabia, the U.S. government, etc. Everybody was involved in this situation. So, guys, go check him out. He wants to remake The Empire Unmasked, which is a 5-hour-long documentary covering 9/11 in detail. Obviously, we're giving you guys summary points on this podcast, but definitely go check it out and donate so that he can release a remastered version. I'm going to donate to it because I think this is very important for people to see. As you guys know, Numek was really well done. He wants to get it to that type of level.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Numek, just type that in Rumble, NUMEC. And it's like the 5th one down. It's the one with 77,000 views.
Yeah.
You should watch that. That's what I want. Like that kind of quality with the research I already did. And since I'm doing it over again, I'm going to add the new things I found out because I have more info now than I did in 2011.
Bam.
Right.
So, guys, go check him out, man. It's Ryan Dawson on Rumble. He's banned off everything else, but go over there, support him, check him out, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.
And some girls later. Peace.
I ran so far away.